5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Over to you, Chair Carr.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call this reconvening meeting of the Standing Committee of Policy and Strategic Priorities of May 26, 2021 to order. This committee is being convened by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw, the City of Vancouver Electronic Meetings Regulation, and the Order of the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General of the Province of British Columbia Emergency Program Act, updated Ministerial Order number M192. As such, committee members are participating by phone, and as chair of this meeting, I'm also participating by phone. Please note if my connection is lost during any portion of this meeting, we will recess the meeting until my connection has restored. If committee members lose connection during the voting process, we have staff on hand to facilitate getting you back online quickly while we suspend the voting process. That contact information has been circulated to you. The video of committee members speaking, presentations, and vote results will be projected to viewers when available. The committee is also reminded we need to ensure there is quorum during the meeting, so please make sure your video is enabled. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations and thank them for having cared for this land and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. I also want to take a moment to recognize the incredibly important and immense contributions of the City of Vancouver staff who work hard every day to help make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. Deputy City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Carr is in the chair. Councillor DiGenova. Councillor Fry.
Here.
Councillor Swanson. You may be on mute. We can see you. Councillor Hardwick.
Present.
Councillor Wiebe.
Present.
Councillor Boyle.
Present.
Councillor Dominato.
Present.
You do have an LOA for later this evening, but I think we'll be concluding around 6, so it won't be required. Councillor Bligh.
Present.
Councillor Kirby Young. Councillor Kirby Young? We can see you. The meeting has quorum, Chair Carr.
Great. Thank you, Clerk. I would like to go over the plan for the day. Following the updated guidance issued on December 4th, 2020, further extended on February 5th, 2021, in-person participation for local government meetings and public hearings is not permitted under the Provincial Health Officer Order on Gatherings and Events. Therefore, speakers who will be providing comments to Council will be by phone, and a moderator will assist in patching the speakers through when their turn comes up. Speakers should follow along on Twitter at VanCityClerk for updates on the progress of the meeting so you don't miss your turn to speak. Any comments on agenda items can be sent to Council using the web form on the City's website. The link to that form will be tweeted out on at VanCityClerk. I also want to note the City of Vancouver's longstanding commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including utmost respect for all genders. I remind Council that when addressing speakers and staff, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and will instead refer to the person by first and last name or role or title. On May 25th, 2021, the committee completed hearing from speakers on item 5, reducing barriers and deepening affordability for nonprofit, co-op, and social housing in every neighborhood. That was members' motion B2. Following debate, the motion was lost before the recess. Today, we have 4 items of business remaining on the agenda. The 4 motions that were referred from the Council meeting on May 18th, 2021. And as we proceed, we will revisit our progress in an effort to update speakers waiting their turn on the probability of being heard today. Should the business not be completed prior to 6 p.m. this evening, we will recess and reconvene the Standing Committee meeting tomorrow, Thursday, May 27th at 3 p.m. I believe that will go to 10 in our schedules. Finally, I would like to remind council members that if amendments are brought forward, they must be submitted to the city clerk in final written form before the council member introduces them. Please ensure the city clerk has received your amendment before it is your turn to speak. So we have 4 motions remaining on our agenda referred from the council meeting on May 18th. After hearing from speakers, we will go into discussion on the motions, motion by motion. The first referred motion is item 6 on our agendas, Saving Lives with the World Trade Organization, WTO, Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, TRIPS waiver. That's members' motion B3, which was moved and introduced by Councillor Swanson and seconded by Councillor Fry. We will now hear from speakers on this motion, for which there are a total of 5 speakers. Our first speaker is Pauline Fuller, co-chair of the Independent Voices for Safe and Effective Drugs. Pauline Fuller, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Great, we can hear you clearly. So up to 5 minutes
great.
to speak to council.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Well, my name is Pauline Fuller, and I represent Independent Voices for Safe and Effective Drugs. I live in Vancouver. We're supporting the motion calling on the Prime Minister to ensure Canada supports the WTO, the TRIPS waiver at the WTO. The reason that we're supporting it is because we, along with many, many other people around the world, feel that this is the only way right now to effectively combat the spread of the coronavirus on a massive global through a massive global vaccination campaign, and a campaign that's based on equity. The TRIPS agreement is preventing this from happening because its main purpose is to protect patents, which it does very well, but it is not able to ensure equitable access to vaccines and medicines. And that is definitely reflected in the distribution of the COVID vaccine worldwide, and in fact within some countries as well. By October last year, 1 million people had died of COVID, and that was the same month that Africa and India proposed a TRIPS waiver at the WTO. At the time, the motion was welcomed by low- and middle-income countries, but those in the global north, including Canada, voted against it. In December, the motion came back to the table, and again, wealthy countries, including Canada, opposed it and called for a delay in the vote. By this time, 58 countries had signed up as sponsors of the motion, with support from over 100 countries, representing a majority of the 164 seats at the WTO table. In March, the motion was again at the table, and again it failed to win unanimous support. So this is taking place against a backdrop of mounting cases and deaths disproportionately impacting low- and middle-income countries. Since the first discussion about the TRIPS waiver in October, the death toll from COVID has increased from 1 million to 3.4 million people. Obviously, this is not the way to respond to a global health crisis. Canada's opposition is inexplicable, especially since we are negatively impacted by the patents on the COVID vaccines. Last year, people across the country watched as the supply of the vaccine ramped up in Israel, the United Arab Emirates, the United States, and many European countries. There was a lot of concern in Vancouver because we were falling behind the U.S. particularly, but also the EU, and that was because vaccine makers were delaying supply to Canada. The Canadian government seems to have also been concerned about these delays because in March of last year, Parliament passed an amendment to the Patent Act, which would have allowed the government to temporarily waive the patents on COVID vaccines so that Canadian manufacturers could produce the COVID vaccine for Canadians. This amendment expired in September and wasn't renewed, and I suspect, along with a lot of other people, this was due to a very vigorous and aggressive lobby from the pharmaceutical industry. In fact, last year the industry threatened to delay the supply of the COVID vaccine to Canadians if new guidelines to control excessive drug prices were implemented, and Ottawa backed down from implementing those new guidelines. So it would be no surprise if our opposition to a TRIPS waiver was a result of that type of pharmaceutical lobbying. The point is that we would ourselves benefit if the WTO passed a temporary TRIPS waiver because the virus doesn't respect borders and it's unlikely we've seen the end of COVID. We have the capacity to make a COVID vaccine ourselves if the TRIPS waiver is implemented. In addition, and this is important, Vancouver is home to a lot of people who have family and relatives around the world, including in those countries, such as India, where COVID is completely out of control and where vaccination rates are low and the supply of the vaccine is being hampered. The drug industry argues that 20-year patent protection is necessary to help them recoup their investments in research and development, but this is nonsense. The investment in R&D pales in comparison to the money pharma spends on advertising and promotion and on dividends and stock buybacks. We need to act in our own self-interest, but we also have a moral obligation to help ensure that all people, regardless of which country they live in or how much money they have, get vaccinated. And this is the message that we hope Vancouver will send to Prime Minister Trudeau. Thank you for allowing me to express our support for the motion, and we hope Council will stand with most of the world and support a TRIPS waiver. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And that was perfectly timed. If you could stay on the line, though, you do have questions from Councillor Swanson.
Hi, thanks so much for coming to speak and for all your work on this. I think I heard you say that 158 countries wanted the TRIPS waiver and that there's 164 countries altogether at the WTO. Is that right?
No, it's just over 100 countries are supporting the waiver, and that includes the 58 sponsors. The 64 countries who are opposing the TRIPS waiver are mainly in the high income and middle income countries. But the majority of the world's people, those countries supporting the waiver, represent overwhelmingly the majority of the world's people.
Okay, thank you so much. That's just what I wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Councillor Swanson, and thanks, Colleen Fuller. You have no other questions, but again, appreciate very much you coming to speak to Council.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night, or good afternoon. Second speaker on our list, Council, is John Calvert.
Mayor Stewart and members of Council, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead to Council, up to 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak in support of the motion as well. I live in Vancouver, and by way of introduction, I teach courses in international trade agreements and health at SFU's Health Science faculty. Like many today, I strongly believe Canada should support the 100 countries calling for a waiver on patent protection in the TRIPS agreement. This will enable generic manufacturers to produce desperately needed vaccines to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. The question we should ask is, how did Canada get here? Why is Canada one of the very few countries supporting what is essentially a privatized monopoly system that will deny millions of people access to life-saving vaccines and cause untold deaths? I want to make 2 points here, both of which flow from the history of patent legislation in Canada and also globally. First, Canada's position can be traced back to the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement and NAFTA. The government of Brian Mulroney conceded to U.S. demands to eliminate our very successful compulsory licensing legislation. Between 1969 and 1987, compulsory licensing had saved Canadian patients hundreds of millions of dollars. Eliminating it enabled the multinational drug companies to raise prices dramatically in Canada. In 1985, drugs accounted for about 8% of our health spending. Today, they amount for 16%, and that's courtesy of NAFTA and TRIPS agreement. NAFTA and TRIPS are almost identical in the patent protection they provide. The Mulroney government also privatized our very successful domestic vaccine manufacturer, Connaught Laboratories. The 1994 NAFTA agreement locked in 20 years of patent protection, and it is, as I said, almost identical to TRIPS. My second point is that the U.S. pursued the same agenda internationally in the negotiations establishing the World Trade Organization. It pushed to have the TRIPS agreement become an integral part of the new WTO in 1995. TRIPS was the brainchild of Edmund Pratt, the CEO of Pfizer, one of the world's largest multinational drug companies. Pratt wanted a global regime of patent protection to stop the growth of generic producers in India, Brazil, and Thailand. He organized other multinationals in the computer software and entertainment industries who had similar interests in patent protection or copyright. Pratt believed linking patent protection to a trade agreement would establish a new system of global enforcement for its patents. Why? Well, because trade agreements impose punitive sanctions on countries that violate their provisions. Signing TRIPS was a condition of joining the new World Trade Organization in 1995. Developing countries were forced to sign TRIPS to avoid being excluded from the global trading system. The decision to create TRIPS was driven by the greed of the multinational pharmaceutical corporations, and TRIPS has been a financial bonanza for U.S. and European multinational corporations since then. It's resulted in a massive transfer of wealth to investors in the U.S. and Europe from developing countries and also from patients around the world. Its negative impact on public health was exposed almost 2 decades ago in the HIV/AIDS crisis. South Africa at that time could not acquire needed antiretrovirals because the patent holders wanted too much money for their drugs and refused to allow generic companies to produce them, resulting in tens of thousands of unnecessary deaths. COVID-19 exposed what a bad agreement TRIPS was and is. It basically denies countries around the world the ability to produce desperately needed vaccines, even though they have the capacity to do so. And it is the patent protection that denies them the opportunity to be able to produce what's needed. And Canada, as the previous speaker also indicated, is also a victim of its decision to sell publicly owned Connaught, its termination of compulsory licensing, the second thing that Mulroney did, and its acceptance unnecessarily of this 20-year patent protection. And one might ask, why is it 20 years?
Sorry,
That is what Pharma wanted.
John Calvert,
yes.
You're actually, I'm
Yes.
sorry, you're out of time. You have 5
Okay.
minutes to speak. And so very much appreciate you taking the time to speak and all the information that you have provided.
Okay.
But there are no questions for you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Great, thanks. Okay, our fourth, the third speaker has withdrawn. Councillor, our fourth speaker is Pauline Barrett.
Hello there. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. As has already been stated, my name is Pauline Barrett, and I am a resident of Vancouver. I'm very grateful to be able to speak in favor of this motion, and thank you for listening. I would like to tell you why I feel this motion is urgently important. I come wearing a little different hat than some of the other speakers. Colleen and John have already offered a detailed overview of the essence of TRIPS, and I'm sure others will as well. I come as a representative and a leader of what is known as the Grandmothers Advocacy Network. This is a network of volunteers across Canada and elsewhere working together to influence policy change and stimulate effective action in Canada and internationally to protect the human rights of grandmothers looking after millions of orphan children because of the AIDS pandemic, to which John has referred, and the rights of children and youth of sub-Saharan Africa. Initially, 14 years ago, we were connected with the Stephen Lewis Foundation. We are now a separate civil society. Our first big piece of advocacy work was to attempt to get Bill C-393 passed, bill known as CAMRA. Now, in our advocacy work around increasing the access of medicines in sub-Saharan Africa, we are concerned that Canada sign on to the WTO TRIPS waiver. The vaccines designed to fight COVID-19 need to reach all developing countries, such as sub-Saharan Africa. It is imperative to realize, to take in with your heart as well as your mind, that the COVID-19 pandemic is unlikely to end until there is a global rollout of vaccines that protect against severe diseases and drive herd immunity. Is this not what is meant when we hear that oft-repeated phrase, "We are in this together"? Waiving intellectual property rights, TRIPS, so all countries could produce more vaccines would make a huge difference in reaching herd immunity. According to reputable research, as of May 6th, of the 950 million doses that have been administered globally, only 0.3% have been given to low-income countries. Only 0.3% given to low-income countries. This global inequality in distribution means that it will be at least 4.6 years before we reach global herd immunity. As I conclude, I need to point out that while the TRIPS waiver is not a silver bullet, it would be an effective step toward increasing the leverage that governments have to deal with the publicly subsidized big pharma vaccine makers. It is also critical to point out that this request for a waiver is only intended to be a temporary measure during this pandemic time, not a forever thing. Canada cannot stand in the way any longer. We will not be out of this pandemic until we all are. So let's support this important motion. Let's break the pattern and so protect people, not profit. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. There are no questions for you, but I very much appreciate you speaking to Council, and I'm sure all Council does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Council's speakers 5 and 6 have withdrawn. Speaker 7, Bernard Ho.
It's the clerk here, Chair Carr, and I'm being told that speaker number 7 is not on the line.
Thank you. Speaker 8, Rohana Rezo.
Likewise, not on the line.
Okay, that actually concludes our speakers list. Because the only 2 speakers were ones we just called. I mean, I could call again, Bernard Ho, Rohana Rezo, and maybe you could confirm, Clerk, that they are not on the line.
I am hearing that speaker number 7 is yes on the line.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Bernard Ho?
Yes, hi.
Hello, we can hear you clearly. You have up to 5 minutes to address Council.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to thank the Vancouver City Council today for this opportunity to speak. My name is Bernard Ho. I'm an emergency room physician living and working in Vancouver. Today I'm speaking in support of Motion B3, Saving Lives with the World Trade Organization TRIPS waiver. And I don't think it's an overstatement to say that the world is currently facing a global health crisis. To date, COVID-19 has killed over 3 million people, and over a year later, we continue to feel its effects on a daily basis. The COVID pandemic has significantly exposed and widened the health inequities that are unfortunately still present today. And we see that even here in Vancouver. I work at St. Paul's, and so I see every day the disparity in health outcomes between our well-off and our poor, and how factors beyond a person's control can have significant and long-lasting effects on their health. But now imagine these health inequities on a global scale. Here in Canada, we're so fortunate to have the ability to buy mass amounts of vaccines. Canada has already signed contracts for enough doses to vaccinate every Canadian 4 times over. And as of 2 weeks ago, over 1/3 of Canadians have received at least 1 dose, and that number is continuing to climb. And this is in contrast to Africa, that has just vaccinated 2% of its population. And part of the reason for Canada's success is that we accepted vaccine donations from the United States and bought vaccines from the COVID-19 Vaccines Global Access, or COVAX, which shamefully is a mechanism of vaccine procurement meant for low and middle income countries. But yet Canada has refused to donate any of its excess vaccines and has voted against the TRIPS waiver 3 times. Contrast this to Prime Minister Trudeau's call to action back in July 2020, where he stated, "We call on global leaders to commit to contributing to an equitable distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine based on the spirit of a greater freedom for all." And this is why I'm in support of Motion B3. The TRIPS waiver would allow for expedient, large-scale vaccine production that would save hundreds of thousands of lives. I'd also like to point out that in 2001, the Doha Declaration clarified the scopes of the TRIPS agreement, where they state, and I quote, "The agreement can and should be interpreted and implemented in a manner to protect public health, and in particular, to promote access to medicines for all." This is literally one of the goals of the agreement, to promote access to medicines for all during a public health crisis. Hundreds of civil society groups, the WHO, and over 100 countries, including the US, have publicly stated their support for the TRIPS waiver, and it's deeply shameful that Canada has not. Countries like India and Brazil are suffering while we let excess vaccines expire. We've already seen the consequences of further uncontrolled spread through the emergence of several new variants, some of which have made their way here to Vancouver. Experts predict that without a coordinated vaccine response, more than 92 poor countries will not have widespread access to the vaccine until 2023. How can we sit back and watch the death toll continue to rise for another 2 years when we have the solution in front of us? It's already looking more and more likely that we'll need an annual booster dose because of our inability to control the virus. And so the only way out of this pandemic is through a successful global vaccination campaign, and we cannot celebrate until all of our neighbors are vaccinated. I'd like to end with another quote from our Prime Minister. "Where you live should not determine whether you live." Thank you for your time.
Great, and thank you for your time. There are no questions of you by councillors, but I really appreciate you coming to speak to all of us. Thank you. Okay, just one last time, I'm going to call for Speaker 8, Rohana Rezal.
It is the clerk here, and no, we do not have speaker number 8.
Great. Okay, that is the end of the speakers list. Council, we can now move to discussion and decision. Councillor Swanson, you're up first. I'm going to just move us. Sorry, Councillor Swanson, I'm just going to move you into the main queue.
Yeah, I would like to thank all the speakers. I really learned a lot listening to you, and I thought everybody was very intelligent about what they said. And all I want to do is, I know the Afshan Jabari, the pharmacy manager at the Reach Center, wanted to come but was unable to, so he sent us an email, which I did send out to all the counselors, but I wanted to read the last paragraph of it. To combat this pandemic, we need to immediately implement a WHO TRIPS waiver. This would allow more vaccine manufacturers to produce much higher supplies of the COVID vaccines at a much lower cost. Greater accessibility is the only way to allow adequate and fair distribution of the COVID vaccine globally, which in turn would prevent large-scale loss of life and the emergence of new variants. In a global pandemic of this scale, we will not get too many opportunities to make a significant difference like we can right now. Do we as a city and a country want to be on the wrong side or the right side of this decision? Time is now for Canada to sign the waiver of the WHO TRIPS. Reach Community Health Centre as an important healthcare hub in Vancouver strongly supports this motion. Yeah, I hope we can pass this unanimously.
Thanks, Councillor Swanson. Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, Chair Carr. I'll just really briefly say I'm also quite happy to support this and appreciate the expertise, the folks who were able to speak or write in bring such an incredible wealth and history of work on this topic, and it clearly is an important justice issue in this time, and so appreciate the opportunity to get to add our voices to this important call and will enthusiastically support it.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Councillor, I do not see any other councillors on the list, so I am going to ask Clerk if you could take us to a vote.
Point of privilege, Chair?
Yes, Councillor DiGenova?
My voting panel is frozen.
Yes, you would.
A vote assist.
A vote in favor?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Chair, this is the mayor speaking. Could I also have a vote assist in favor, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Councillors Hardwick and Dominato, you have not yet voted. Or Kirby Young. Clerk, if you could advise if they have been on the line or not on the line right now. Again, Councillors Dominato and Kirby Young have not yet voted.
I'm just checking, Chair Carr, to see if they're needing assistance. I do not see Councillor Dominato on the website, so we may have to make contact. I'll have IT do so.
Okay, they were here at the beginning of the meeting?
Yes.
Is that right? All right. Yes, you'll we will have to take a brief break in this voting process to enable staff to reach out to the two councillors who are just not on the line right now. Thank you.
2-1. And over to you, Chair Carr.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Council, we have, the clerk has determined that Councillor Dominato is no longer on WebEx, is no longer in the meeting at all. So it's not a matter of the connection being lost. And so she is being marked as absent, along with Councillors Hardwick and Kirby Young. The rest of you have all voted, and it is a unanimous vote on this motion. So thank you all. Great. We are now able to move along to the next item referred to this meeting, which is item 7, prioritizing Commercial Drive as a pedestrian first high street, which was members' motion B4, which was moved and introduced by Councillor Fry and seconded by Councillor DeGenova. We'll now hear from speakers on this motion, for which there are a total of 27 speakers. This first speaker is Nathan Davidovich. Nathan Davidovich, are you on the line?
It is the clerk here, Chair Carr. Then speaker number 1 should be on the line.
Nathan Davidovich, can you hear me?
Just had it confirmed that speaker number 1 is not on the line, but yes, speaker number 2 is.
Great. Leslie McHale, speaker 2.
Hello?
Yes. Oh, this sounds like Nathan Davidovich. Is this Nathan Davidovich?
Oh, I'm number 1 or 2?
I'm just wondering, I'm sorry. Is this Nathan Davidovich who is speaking to me?
Hello? Yes, that's Nathan Davidovich. Yeah.
Yes, great. You're
Hello?
speaker number 1. You may go ahead and address council up to 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Carr and members of council. Commercial Drive is not a unique street in Vancouver. There are many other commercial streets that have developed along original streetcar lines, and that is why Vancouver has much higher transit ridership. Is only 25% of the regional population, has 50% of the regional transit ridership. Any changes to the present street should go through a long consultation of at least 6 months or more. Transit riders and bus driver union should be consulted, not just the merchants. Prioritizing Commercial Drive and no other commercial street is a mistake. Item 12I that state maintaining and improving on-street parking spaces to support local businesses. This is completely out of line, as we have lots of research to show that transit passengers and pedestrians buy more at local stores than car drivers. So I'm not sure why it's even there in the first place. The bus speed on route number 20 is one of the lowest outside the downtown, about 14 kilometers an hour prior to COVID. But with all the street patios that the staff has allowed on Commercial Drive, even during the rush hour, the speed now is down to about 10 kilometers per hour. You can walk about 5 kilometers an hour, and of course you can take a bike and run 20 to 30 kilometers an hour on a bike. And you can't have everybody taking the bike or walking. There's many seniors and handicapped people that need to use the bus. And by making changes or proposing changes south of First Avenue, it would make it even worse. The bus speed will go down to from 10 down to 8 or 7 or whatever it's going to be. It's just unbelievable that somebody would propose such changes without consulting with the transit union and the bus riders. So while I support Little Italy and everything else around Commercial Drive, and I've shopped there myself many times, but making changes without knowing what the results are a very, very bad idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you would stay on the line, you have got questions from Councillor Swanson. Go ahead, Councillor Swanson.
So Nathan, if we were going to widen the streets and put more bikes in, would you then suggest that we get rid of the parking lanes on Commercial Drive so that the buses could keep having their spots and their lanes?
Yeah, well, if that's the proposal, yeah, we'll take away the parking and allow the buses to at least maintain the present speed. Anything less would be just disaster. I mean, it will just cost so much more money also to put more buses on the road, because when buses would go slower, which means you need more buses for the same frequency of service. But I mean, there's one way to help the bus service for the around for Grandview Woodland is to return the First Avenue bus that we have been requesting since the mid-1950s when it was discontinued. Well, that would take some pressure off and allow more people to be access to transit, and possibly also putting a bus service during the daytime on Victoria Drive between Broadway Station and Powell Street. That would help too, but nobody's willing to do anything for Vancouver. We are missing 50 kilometers of bus route to complete our network to have a similar network, a grid system of bus service like Toronto and other progressive cities. But nobody is talking about it. Nobody wants to do anything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Swanson. And again, thank you, Nathan, as well, for speaking to us. There are no more questions for you, but thank you again for speaking to Council. Second on the list is Leslie McHale, President of the Commercial Drive Business Society. Leslie McHale, are you on the line?
Speaker 2 is on the line. Perhaps they need to unmute.
Yeah, Leslie McHale, if you might be on mute, we cannot hear you. So, but you are in position to speak to Council.
It's the clerk here, Chair Carr. Apparently, speaker number 2 has disconnected.
Okay, thank you. Speaker 3, Portia Sam.
What the heck?
Portia Sam on the line.
Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi,
Portia
good afternoon.
Sam?
Yes, it is.
Go
good
ahead.
Afternoon,
Up to 5 minutes.
Mayor and Council. Pardon?
Yes, you have up to 5 minutes. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Portia Sam. I've been running a business, a social enterprise on Commercial Drive for the past 11 years. Prior to that, I had a shop in 1994 and one in 1996 on the street. At the time, I lived on the drive, and my son went to school in the community, and of course, we accessed a lot of the community facilities, such as Britannia, the swimming pool, the community center, the library. We shopped for our food, and we frequented lots of the 100-plus restaurants and cafes on the street. And we feel really blessed to belong to such a close community. I support prioritizing Commercial Drive as a pedestrian-first high street. People who live and work on Commercial Drive recognize that the drive is a special place and that it should be protected. It pays tribute to vibrant cultures and people who make up the heartbeat and the history of the the street and focuses on diversity and inclusion. The Commercial Drive Business Society is supporting the motion before you because it recognizes that regardless of how people arrive on the drive, be it by car or public transit, bike, scooter, wheelchair, on foot, the drive is a special place. And the small family-owned businesses that make up the drive, it's special. The motion promotes people and pedestrians first, and the Business Society recognizes the importance of the stop-and-shop model for the street and the importance of small businesses and shoppers regarding maintaining and improving on-street parking to support, enhance, and beautify the street where possible, to slow the streets and make it easier for people to shop and eat and enjoy the drive and all the people and the spaces between it. The Business Society supports the motion as it recognizes that Commercial Drive as a high street of Grandview Woodland and the importance of Commercial Drive as a local and regional community. It recognizes historical Little Italy and the importance of celebrating diversity. It recognizes Commercial Drive for its authentic and unique character and the continental vibe that it pays tribute to, and the people who make up the street and the history of the drive. And of course, it recognizes the Italian community. It would like to maintain and improve on-street parking to support the local businesses. It secures Commercial Drive as a destination street that is utilized by the entire Lower Mainland and identifies it as a Corso-type street and defines it in that way. I would just like to say that I am in favor of widening the sidewalk south of First Avenue so businesses can activate the bistro, the promenade with bistro streets, patios, maybe sidewalk sales. This would allow Commercial Drive to have a uniform streetscape south of First Avenue to match the north of First Avenue. It would improve existing east-west north-south bicycle networks with access to Commercial Drive while highlighting a north-south AAA bike lane for Victoria Drive and not on Commercial Drive. It would encourage more public art and street furniture, more signage, while organically slowing the street and not have Commercial Drive as a traffic connector corridor for through traffic, be it cars or transit or bikes, and hopefully allows TransLink to remove the 3 to 6 rush hour regulations on the east side of the street. This would also increase our on-street parking for merchants and patrons and the visitors to the drive. Thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much. And if you don't mind remaining on the line, you do have questions from councillors.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor
Yeah,
Kirby
sure.
Young, you are first. Great. Thank you. Councillor Kirby Young.
Yeah, thanks, Portia, for being here, and thanks for speaking to council. Do you think that we truly have, can you think of any pedestrian first streets in Vancouver that really fit this vision of what you're describing?
That is a vision of what we're describing. You know, I think in Vancouver, no, not really. Not really. No, I mean, I know they've slowed Robson down a lot, but there's still quite a bit of traffic on there. Yeah, no, I really don't. But Commercial Drive, it has the potential to be that kind of street. It's got the vibe. You know, I mean, when they have festivals and stuff, of course, and the street is closed off, you know, people are apt to walk in the middle of the street. We're not asking for that kind of thing because we're mindful of the businesses and the restaurants and all that. But just I
can
think
I jump in?
Go ahead.
I have a limited amount of time, so I don't mean to cut you off, but to jump in on that, you described a great vision of sort of what it would enable in terms of, you know, additional people-focused uses like extended patios and all that. What's the impact now of having the sort of that constrained space and the narrower sidewalks? What does it mean in terms of the experience today of not doing it?
Well, you know, what happens is that the north side of the street is kind of neglected. as opposed to the south side of the street where the street's a little wider and people can have these very large patios. I think now that the whole street is being accessed, like there's businesses from one end of the street to the next, but I think we could just jazz it up a little bit. We can make it like a real functioning walking street where people want to come and just park their cars and just walk the whole street.
Okay. And in terms of sort of a Corso style concept, you sort of really see the whole notion here that I hear you talking about is speed and not actually trying to direct additional traffic into the area per se, but just trying to make it comfortable for the experience when people are there. Is that a fair statement of what you're trying to convey?
No, no. I think we want to drive more traffic, but I mean, we have the Broadway station. It's super accessible. We do have the buses. It would be nice if between 3 and 6 cars didn't. It's a problem is towing. Since they put in these what did they call my brain? Oh my goodness, to the ticket things. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, people get towed all the time here. And
okay, if you could just wrap it up, we're just a bit over time. If you could just wrap it up,
okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just a bit over time. Thank you.
Okay.
But you do have more questions. Thank you, Councillor Kirby Young. But on to Councillor Boyle.
Thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time to sign up. I'm just hoping you can help me better understand because I live near the drive and I walk and cycle with my kids around the neighborhood. Where I've heard this idea of a AAA bike lane on Victoria Drive, and I just don't understand where it fits. Is it removing the street parking on Victoria Drive to have a bike lane?
Well, I don't know if that's what they do. I don't think that's what they do. I think they fit a bike lane in. It's a much safer street to have a bike lane. I know they tried to do that on Commercial a few years ago, and the merchants rejected it because, they saw the lay of the land, can be, and they just went, no, cars won't be able to park here. Either Cotton or Victoria is a much better street for biking for families to make a permanent bike path as opposed to Commercial Drive. People ride their bikes on the drive all the time. There's just not a bike lane. So there's through traffic. People can park on either side of the street up until, of course, between 3 and 6. I think people would prefer to have the bike path not on Commercial Drive. I know they would. They voted that way.
Okay. The business association, you mean, voted that way?
The business association, which?
Voted to not. Anyway, my actual question is
no, they actually asked the patrons. The patrons, the people who have businesses on the street, voted no.
Yeah. Can you help me understand too what you were saying something about fewer buses on Commercial Drive?
Between 3 and 6, everybody on the north side of the street, on the east side, has to go. They have to move the parking. They have to move their cars because the bus comes along. It becomes a bus lane, and so if you're not moved, of course, then you get towed. And it's very confusing for people because people park there all the time. We run out and tell people, oh, you can't park there between 3 and 6 because they will tow you. It's really confusing. And if, people don't have to move on the other side of the street, the buses go around the parked cars there. So, but it's because this side of the street, it's narrower than the south side, right? That's a lot wider on that side of the street, over past First,
Okay.
So
because
it's
and that you only have
that's
3
my
seconds
time.
left.
I'll ask someone else. Thanks again for your time.
But
no worries.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle, and you do have more questions. However, go ahead, Councillor DeGenova.
Thanks so much, and thanks for your comments. Just going a little bit further, you had said that there was there was some consultation with the patrons. Is this type of consultation the type of consultation that would ask whether or not they would be as likely to shop at these stores on the drive?
You know, I can't remember the full questionnaire that came down through. I think it was 4 years ago. I think that was some. Yeah, it was some of the questions, like, you know, how often would you be able to go if there was no parking? Well, there's no parking. The off streets are also they're for residents, so there's not a lot of parking. You know, it's only on the front street that there's parking. So people, you know, they said, no, that's not going to be helpful. And the businesses said no, and the people said no. And, I mean, this is a biking neighborhood. People bike. You know, I'm sure they would love a bike lane on one of these side streets, you know, be it Victoria, be it Cotton or Woodland. But, yeah, they just don't want it on the high street, on the front street.
Thanks. Just a follow-up question. Do you feel in times like these especially, I mean, I understand there was some consultation and matters you pointed out came to council 4 years ago. But right now, businesses are struggling, especially small local businesses with COVID.
100%.
Do you think that it's really important that we listen to the businesses and try and work with you as to what you need, you and all of the other
100%. Yes, I absolutely agree with that, because, I mean, you know, people have to get back on their streets, on their feet somehow. This is a street that usually, I think there is a 2-year wait for space, 2 to 4 year wait. And I think right now, 3 months ago, I counted 14 spaces that were vacant, and I think I saw 3 new businesses with that are coming in the next few months. So there's probably about 10 or 11. Yeah, we definitely need help, and anything you can do right now to give us a boost and to make the street, you know, it's a community. It's a really cohesive.
Oh, sorry, I have limited time, but I was just wanting to really understand. You would expect that there's a seat at the table, that you're involved in this decision making, that these decisions aren't being made for you because you need to be front and center. You as in the businesses. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have 10 seconds left to answer.
Yes,
there you go.
please. We would like to be consulted. Yes.
Thanks so much. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank
they
you.
may seem obvious, but for public record, I thought it was important. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And that is it for your questions. But thank you for your patience in answering and to come to speak to council. It's very much appreciated. Okay, so we are on to speaker number 4, Anne Boone.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
I'd like to say that I agree with everything. Good. I really agreed with everything Portia said. That was very well said. My name is Anne-Marie Boone, and I am in favor of motion B4, prioritizing Commercial Drive as a pedestrian first high street. I am a resident of Vancouver. I am also a co-owner of Women's Wear located at 896 Commercial Drive. As a resident of Vancouver and a business owner of a long-standing business on Commercial Drive, I fully support the Commercial Drive's BIA's initiative of a pedestrian first street. Preserving the heart and soul of this vibrant community by renewing and expanding the public spaces is aligned with the City of Vancouver's Making Streets for People program, I feel this would promote a safe environment for families, seniors, folks with disabilities, and everyone visiting and living in this wonderful community. A slower street with more public space has never been more important than during these times. A street with shared access by both pedestrians and cyclists, I feel would increase the sense of community that Commercial Drive is known for. As a resident of Vancouver, I use the bike lanes, I use transit, walk, and occasionally drive to work. I feel the east to west bike lanes, 10th and Adnac, are more than sufficient bike lanes, but do see a need for appropriate bike racks, and I feel the proposed increased sidewalk space could be a potential solution for that. As for north to south bike lanes, Victoria Drive is a really well-known bike route. It also has less disruptions due to less retail and businesses for a safer bike route. Some street parking needs to be kept a priority for business access. Commercial Drive is one of the few areas in Vancouver where unique small businesses still exist as the majority retail, and it is a calling card to the area. Some folks will still need to drive to access shopping. Thank you for this opportunity to express my support for motion B4.
Thank you very much. You have no questions from council, but I very much appreciate you speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
5. Great, thank you. Speaker 5, Richard Campbell.
Hi, can you hear me, Chair Carr?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. You have up to 5 minutes to speak to council.
Hi, Chair Carr and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And first of all, I agree with the need to improve Commercial Drive and make it safer for everyone, as well as streets all around the city. But as the first speaker said, it's really important to engage everyone involved, and it is a critical transit route. Many people who even work on the street or live there depend on efficient transit service, so it's really not fair to take that away without providing good alternatives. It's also absolutely inappropriate, as several of the previous speakers have done, is try to tell people cycling where they should or should not cycle, and that's essentially what they are doing. What it is critical to ask people is actually what they want to and need to do, not use other people's opinions on that. Now, there are several people, lots of people that already use the drive for cycling, and lots of other people have said they would like the protected bike lanes on the drive. And another thing that really needs to be considered is the people that work on the drive, the people working at the the restaurants, or those delivering food by bike. And it's a real concern that I haven't actually heard any businesses in North America expressing concern about the safety of these people who really need to use the main streets and the shopping streets to effectively access the businesses along. I mean, it's actually a great business it's actually great for the businesses, and they've kept businesses alive. And to not even acknowledge that, it's quite frankly, totally unacceptable. And, I think the business community really needs to step up and acknowledge workers that they depend on, and as well as their customers that want to get there safely by bicycle. And also there's lots of disabled people who, cycle as well, as there are those that use car and those that use bus. And I think that needs to be acknowledged. So before any change is made, there really needs to be inclusive engagement. Now, one thing I think is worth looking at over the next few months is, like other cities have done, you could do in sections a trial patio with a protected bike lane next to it. It's worked quite well. You could keep parking in some places. So if you want to do that kind of trial, then you can engage people. Oh, how does it work? You can talk to them and then make adjustments, and that may guide the long-term opinion. And also with the huge transit improvements going in there, like $6 billion of transit investments, that it all converges at the drive as well as the regional greenways, it's really hard to make the case that you really need the parking, for those businesses on the drive. So the city needs to encourage people in the neighborhood to walk there, make it great for them, and encourage for the people from around the region to arrive by bike, and from around the region and the city to arrive by bike and, transit. So I appreciate that they want a slower street, but what they are saying, if they want parking and people to drive there from around the region, they are saying, okay, it's fine if people speed through other people's business districts and have the impact on their business and the quality of street, but don't do it on ours? No, I think we all need to work together and realize we're on the same boat to move towards a city and a region where people stay more locally, visit their local businesses instead of making long trips across the regions, which are both not safe for them, nor the people walking and cycling and driving in the other areas of the city. And finally, I think, yes, let's talk about this, but I think it's too early to make some of these decisions that are in the motion. But let's move forward with doing real inclusive engagement with the people that work and live on the drive, as well as people that shop on there. And finally, I sent you an email proposing a two-way couplet of commercial and Victoria, which would actually have bus lanes, protected bike lanes, protect parking, add some patios. It's a huge change, and I have no idea what people will think about that. But let's put this and some other ideas forward, and let's see if we can arrive with a really good solution for everybody that really makes it really great for people that use sustainable transportation, whether it's bus or SkyTrain or walking or wheelchairs or bicycles. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. If you don't mind staying on the line, you've got questions from councillors. Councillor Fry, you're up first. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Richard. And I know you're big on transportation and follow a lot of this stuff. Are you familiar with TransLink's new Transport 2050 work and strategic planning? Specifically, the people first streets.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if I could read I'm wondering if I can read an excerpt from it and get your feedback on this. So they write that different urban street types can combine to create complete networks of safe and comfortable walkways and bikeways, providing everyone with access to all destinations across the community. These concepts are based on guidance in the Global Street Design Guidelines 2016 and from the National Association of City Transportation Officials, which of course is NACTO. And what they talk about is the slower, safer street model that this council's prioritized, and they talk about target speeds of 30 kilometers an hour for neighborhood main streets, which are comfortable for cycles to ride in mixed traffic, low risk for people walking across or along edge. So this is part of the strategy that TransLink is putting forward. I'm wondering if you feel that that's incompatible with what your impression of that is.
Well, first of all, the city of Vancouver is one of the leaders on the neighborhood bikeways, and they have pretty strict requirements for that. So the vehicle speeds have to be under 30 kilometers an hour or under, and the vehicle volumes have to be really low. I believe the ideal is 500 a day, and even with the level of transit service, that's simply not workable on a street by commercial. And the other issue is there's parking along there, so kind of the challenge is people, especially going up that long uphill to First from the Central Valley Greenway and areas further south, it's a long hill, and then buses and other vehicles are going to want to get by. Cyclists will end up being intimidated, quite frankly, illegally into the door zone, and that's a great risk for them. They can get, somebody was killed, a few years ago, getting knocked off his bike by somebody opening a car door. So you're really exposing people to, unacceptable, risk. And you'd also have delivery trucks on streets like commercial, even just delivering stuff to the store. So I think TransLink would agree as well, as would the engineers that work for the city, that type of a shared street with bikes and traffic would not work. What actually most people would end up doing is cycling on the wider sidewalks, which is risky for people cycling, it's risky for people walking, and it also exposes people to harassment and potentially violence by we
don't want people cycling on sidewalks for sure. But I guess so you don't agree with TransLink's what I just read from the TransLink report then, and that.
I think there's probably, I think if we had a discussion with TransLink about vehicle volumes and things like that, appropriate would probably.
And actually, you are out of time, unfortunately. Thank you. But you have more questions. That is your time, Councillor Fry. Councillor Swanson, over to you for questions.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in and for all the intelligent emails you're sending us, Richard. I'm thinking of the folks who live around the drive who, can't afford to eat in patio restaurants, and youth, maybe Indigenous youth, who just like to hang out. Have you given thought to what this kind of a change would mean to them? Would they be more likely to be included in this pedestrian-friendly setup, or would they be more likely to be excluded?
Well, that would depend on the how it's set up, and if one, I guess, how heavily it's policed, or if there's security around. Ideally, these really need to include public space where people can gather and sit without having to buy something from a business. So that is essential in every public space. And as well, you can have patios that are reserved for restaurants. So that's fair. And also a lot of youth, they use skateboards or scooters or bikes, and they need a safe and legal place to do that. Both to have fun and to get around too. So, taking a skateboard or an electric scooter on a bus or SkyTrain is a great way to get around. And really, the only safe and appropriate way to accommodate that is in a protected bike lane, which we probably should actually call micromobility lanes, because even now you see people getting around or delivering food on electric scooters or electric bikes or any number of kinds of devices, and often these are young people, young males of color, typically. And the challenge is this is, and you're correct, this is often who's forgotten in the space, and it's absolutely critical and essential that these people are both included in the conversation, and we need to find ways to do that much more effectively than what we are now.
I was also thinking of all the folks along Commercial that often sell stuff, like having a little garage sale on the sidewalk. Would something like this contribute to pushing them out, do you think?
Well, that's hard to say. The challenge is if you include the street parking, that really limits the amount of, space on the street. And especially, like I mentioned, it's so close to SkyTrain. And all the studies show that removing street parking and improving cycling and walking, actually often it helps businesses. And in a city and a neighborhood where so many people cycle and use transit, I think generally it's going to be a huge net benefit, especially once we have SkyTrain up to Langley and over to Arbutus. And
that is it for your time, Councillor Swanson. Thank you very much, Richard, and very much appreciate you coming to speak to Council.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair Carr and Council.
Great, thank you. Great, we're on to Speaker 6, Aaron Moulale.
No, Speaker 6, Chair Carr.
Okay, Speaker 7, Christina Egyed.
Just one moment, please. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead to Council up to 5 minutes.
My name is Christina Egyed, and I am here speaking to you in support of Motion 4 because I feel it is inclusive and accessible. I'm speaking to you not only as a resident of the Grandview Woodlands area, but also a former Commercial Drive business owner. My husband and I, as residents, will take the opportunity to walk down to Commercial Drive, take on the ambience, a coffee, dinner. Then there's other times when we're at home and we've forgotten a little something. So we jump on the bike and one or the other of us will jump on a bike and take one of the commuter routes, residential commuter routes off to Commercial Drive, pick up, some onions, milk, whatever it is. And then there's other times where we do our big shopping, maybe once a week, once every week and a half. And during that time, we'll go down and we'll visit all of the little stores. So we'll go to Eternal Abundance, Choices, Fratelli's, and we'll stop and shop along the way. I wish I could say that I could do this by bike or by walking, but I'm just not physically able to. So having Commercial Drive more of a stop and shop high street, not a commuter route for any one mode of transportation, is very important because we're leaving the majority of our dollars in our local communities. We're leaving them with independent, small, local businesses. And this is important because small, local, independent businesses, when they spend $100, they're leaving 63 of those dollars in their local community. Small independents pay, on average, 14% more in wages than multinationals. and they donate 24 times more times the dollars to arts, culture, schools, sporting events. So we're talking about all of the things that are around Commercial Drive. Of all of the modes of transportation that we use, walking is the one that we have the most challenge with because the streets are narrow, they're congested, they just don't have enough space on them. I feel that there was a report that was given to Mayor and Council, I believe, at the end of April, the commercial retail, not accessibility, I can't remember what you guys have called it, but there was a report that was given in a memorandum, I believe it was April 26th, that outlines the stresses that certain neighborhoods are feeling, Commercial Drive being one of them. And Commercial Drive is one of the last bastions of independent local businesses, like what Robson Street used to be. And I think that keeping this motion alive is not only going to help businesses survive, but actually thrive. And that's what we need, particularly after this incredibly difficult economic year that our businesses have faced. So again, I support this motion wholeheartedly, not just because of the inclusivity and the accessibility of it, but because our local small independent businesses are so important, both to the economy and to the vitality of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Great, and thank you very much. There are no questions to you, but again, appreciate very much you speaking to Council.
Thank you.
Speaker 8, Carmen Donofrio.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. You're very clear. Go ahead to Council up to 5 minutes.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Council. My name is Carmen Donofrio, and my family has been in the Commercial Drive neighborhood since the 1960s. I grew up in the area and remember with fondness of the days spent on the drive with family and friends and playing soccer at Garden Park for Grandview Legion. The drive is in my blood, and it is a place where I have spent most of my life. We are proud of our community and feel very fortunate to still be part of Commercial Drive today. This motion in front of you is very important and has deep significance and implications for so many family-owned businesses, residents, and members of our community. I want to thank Councillors Peter Fry and Melissa DiGenova for bringing this motion forward. It is a strong motion that speaks to what we on the Drive really believe in. We are about people. That's what makes the Drive so special. People from all places are welcomed here. We know each other's names, each other's families, each other's businesses. The Drive was built on the principle of community, trust, and relationships that people form with one another. My parents came to Canada with a dream of building a better life for themselves and their family, and they found that life on the Drive. Today, I feed my own family through our small businesses on the Drive. After many, many years of consultation, I am so happy to see a motion that recognizes that just like people, the Drive is unique. The people that live, work, visit, and shop the Drive are unique. Cookie cutter is the farthest thing from describing the people of the Drive, and a cookie cutter street wouldn't work here either. So I love the idea that we are building a new Corso-style street for our city, one that embraces all forms of transportation, cars, bikes, scooters, skateboards, wheelchairs, transit, you name it. For me, I want people to come to the Drive and then experience it and discover it for themselves, to go from shop to shop, restaurant to restaurant, and cafe to clothing store. We are a destination commercial high street, and this motion recognizes that with the stop and shop model. The shops on the Drive are mostly small and family owned. They are struggling terribly right now. This motion will give them positive news to rally around. If we lose these one-off independent shops and restaurants, we lose them forever. And in turn, the Drive will lose its authenticity. The authenticity that is special because it was created organically. The authenticity of the Drive and the neighborhood was not created through government grants or by city planners. No, it was formed by the real-life experiences of people and their shared values of hard work, community, inclusivity, respect, and family. We're a little jewel in the city, and we hope that this motion, the Drive's unique character and vibe, will be recognized, fostered, and enhanced for generations to come. I've participated in the past 12 years of consultation about the neighborhood. I have heard all the discussions, the arguments, and the agreements. Throughout it all, one thing was clear. The businesses on the drive and the residents in the neighborhood want to ensure that the things that are special about the drive are protected. I support the motion in front of you for a number of reasons. It secures Commercial Drive as a destination street that is utilized by both the neighborhood and all residents of the Lower Mainland and beyond. It recognizes Commercial Drives for its authentic and unique character and vibe, which includes Little Italy. It pays tribute to the vibrant cultures and people who make up the heartbeat and history of the drive. It identifies the drive as a coastal-style street and promenade that will be beautified and bustling with commerce and social activity, which is so much needed now once COVID is over. Promotes people and pedestrians first, so it will slow the street and encourage more people to walk the drive. It recognizes that Commercial Drive is not a traffic connector corridor for through traffic. I repeat that. It recognizes that the drive is not a traffic connector corridor for through traffic, be it cars, transit, or bikes. We want people to stay here. It promotes a stop and shop model for the street, which is great for the businesses and residents on the drive. It will maintain and improve important on-street parking for all customers and visitors. And these parking spots can be flex spaces for patios, festivals, and other special events. It will also be in the process of creating a more consistent, unified streetscape, both north and south of First Avenue, with wider sidewalks south of First Avenue. This will serve pedestrians along the whole street better and unify the look and feel of the drive. It will also allow seniors and people with disabilities better access to the drive and its many great businesses. It maintains and improves existing bike routes with better access to Commercial Drive, while also highlighting a possible bike lane on Victoria Drive that better connects to the Powell Street and Adirondack bike routes. And lastly, it recognizes Commercial Drive as a high street and its importance in the local and regional economy. I'm very pleased with this motion. I'm pleased with this motion because it champions people first. I truly hope each member of council gives it a positive consideration and votes to prioritize pedestrians on Commercial Drive. Thank you for your time.
That was perfectly timed. Thank you. You do, if you want to, please stay on the line. You do have questions.
Okay.
Councillor DiGenova with questions. Thank you. Up to 3 minutes.
Thanks. Thanks for speaking to council today, Carmen. I'm wondering if you can tell, just maybe I missed it, but how many years has your family-owned business been on the drive, and is it just one generation, or has it been over several generations?
Well, we've been in the drive for 53 years now, and so now the second generation, us, we operate the businesses, and the third generation, so my nieces and nephews and kids are, not my kids, they're too young, but my nephews are now getting involved in the business, so we'll be pushing 3 generations. Wow,
that's impressive. Thanks. What I heard you say was, and I have limited time, so sorry I'm going so fast, but the drive does need change, but also it's important to recognize and preserve the heritage of, for example, Little Italy, which I understand is a part of the brand of the Drive BIA. Is that correct?
Yes, we want to maintain that. It was important that we were able to achieve that designation and recognition. We worked hard to achieve that, and it's helped the vibe and feel of the street. It's been a positive, and it adds to the character of the street. That's where I think it's really, really important that people understand that what we're trying to maintain and improve upon is the character and uniqueness and vibe of the street. You know, Commercial Drive was one of the only neighborhoods in North America that Lonely Planet just recognizes one of the best neighborhoods in the world. We're the only one in Canada in 2020. We're the only street. We're the only neighborhood. And there's a reason for that. And I always say the drive is special because when people come here, once they get it, and they love the place. If they don't get it, you know, they miss out and they'll just say, oh, I don't understand it, I don't get it. But, you know, they understand that something special is happening here. And that's why there's so many people that are passionate about this street and love this street. They want to make sure that it's maintained and improved upon in a way that fits the authenticity of the drive.
And thank you. And I only have less than a minute left, but just wondering, when you think about sort of the drive and supportive of all modes of transportation, do you think that it is possible to have too many things going on a street? Do you think that this needs to be shared throughout our city? And just as you know, if council was going to move forward with something in the Punjabi market or Chinatown, that it's important to have stakeholders at the table. Do you think that's important?
Well, of course, because those stakeholders live in the area, work in the area, grew up in the area, so they understand, you know, the uniqueness of that particular street or that particular part of Vancouver. It's vital that they're included in part of it because they I mean, I'm on Commercial Drive right now as I speak to you, so you see it every day. You know, and there's lots of comments that people make about, you know, the west side of the street where from 3 to 6 there's no parking. And I remember when we were talking to the city about, you know, the Granby Woodland Plan and community, they're like, well, people walk on the east side of Commercial Drive because it's the sunny side of the street. Well, it rains in Vancouver 8 months of the year. People are actually on the east side of Commercial Drive after 3 o'clock because there's no cars that are parked there, and cars and buses are just whipping up the street. We're like, you know, kids are coming out of Britannia Community Center, and these cars and these buses are just whipping up the street. And these cars that are parked actually act as a buffer. They're actually a safety measure for pedestrians in this regard.
Yes, I think that is your time.
Thank you so much. That is my time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Councillor DiGenova, I just wanted to let you know that somehow your timer started from the beginning and you are now on our queue with Councillor Swanson.
I'm not sure what happened.
No, none of us do, but we are. But IT is looking into it.
Thank you. I was going to mention that, but I thought we should just move on considering our time constraints. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. We'll check into it. Councillor Boyle, you are next up to 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thanks, Carr. I actually think that was a holdover.
Okay. Councillor Kirby Young.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thanks, Carmen, for speaking to Council. I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is really just about sort of the demographics of people that you see on the street. Are there any specific groups that are challenged with the current configuration of the narrow sidewalks, like seniors or persons with disabilities? Is there any particular groups that are really impacted by the constraints of the narrow streets?
Well, walking the street, I see, especially on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, where there's a lot of people on the drive. I've seen kids walk onto the street. I've seen the elderly not being able to get by people because there's a group of whatever young people, men, women, talking. So I think especially south of First Avenue, a wider sidewalk encourages people to come up from the SkyTrain station to utilize the drive. I think the added room would actually be well received, not just by merchants, but by patrons and residents of the area.
Okay, and can you give us a little bit of insight and a bit of perspective around sort of the opportunity and the importance of unifying the north and the south ends of the street?
Well, having been on the Commercial Drive Business Society, still am as past president, on the street literally 7 days a week, talking to people, we always got, well, how come the north side of First Avenue, it's so unique, it's quaint, it's tight, you know, people are hustling and bustling, cars are parked, people are walking the street, shops are more unique. And we always say, well, we don't have that feeling south of First Avenue. Well, if we're able to widen the sidewalks, get more of these bistro patio, people having a coffee, a meal, sidewalk sales out there, if we're able to get more public art and benches and people can sit and actually be part of that side, you'll start seeing a uniformity in my mind of the street. And it'll only benefit. You'll start seeing more unique businesses, special businesses, different businesses actually going onto that side of the street rather than just, you know, whether it's Pizza by the Slice, a donair place. It'll actually be unique, vibrant businesses, which I think will benefit the entire street, but also the neighborhood.
Is it because the north side, it just feels more it feels more gentle and sort of human scale? Than the other side, it's just got that kind of micro to it.
Yeah.
I'm just find the right words to describe it.
No, it's got a touchability about it. It's got where you almost sense it. You can almost feel it. You're in the action. You know, you feel like you're part of something, and it's special. It's unique. That's why people love it. Like, You know, that's why people want to come down here on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and just walk the drive. But I think if we're able to replicate that south of First Avenue, I think it's going to be a win for everybody.
The north-south side, although I know you're looking to slow it, but sort of build on that strength, but it is slower, right? It has that feel to it that's somewhere that you could spend a bit of time, right? It's just not spacious enough to really accommodate, right?
Yep.
Okay. No, that's helpful insight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And that is it for your questions. Councillor Kirby, you probably saw that somehow your time was switched. We are having a little bit of problems in the resetting of some timers and some members' identification. Just patience around that. But
When a
that was all
privilege.
good.
Councillor DiGenova's queue is now Councillor DiGenova's queue again. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good to know. Okay, Council, we are now, and thank you very much, Carmen, for taking those questions and speaking to Council. Speaker 9, Verolina Casalado.
Hello?
Yes,
Hi,
we can
you hear me?
Absolutely,
Perfect.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Verolina Casalado, and I would like to start off by thanking the Council for allowing me to speak to this motion and by offering some background. So my family has owned and operated Selena Shoes on Commercial Drive in the city of Vancouver for the past 54 years. We're the only Italian shoe store locally owned and operated left in the city. I'm the proud daughter of Italian immigrants who met and married in Canada and opened Selena Shoes in the summer of 1967. I'm an East Vancouver girl, born and raised, and personally started working in the shop part-time in the early 1980s. My grandparents also lived a few blocks away from our store, so I spent a great deal of time on the drive growing up. We would often bump into friends and neighbors while walking along Commercial. This street has a real community feeling. I think that's the reason why my parents liked it so much. Coming from Italy, where communities are areas where people walk and know one another. 4 generations of my family, which include my children, have had the good fortune of spending time here. Our ties to the community are strong. I have witnessed all the ebbs and flows within the area over the years. I've been present for each and every Italian Day festival and remember them fondly, especially the times when Italy won the World Cup. My father was one of the founding members of the Italian Day Festival, and I myself sat on the Commercial Drive Business Association board for many years. This was prior to the establishment of the new BIA system that is now in place. Selena Shoes is a well-established member of the business community and the community at large. We are personally, emotionally, and financially invested in the area. We want what is best for the drive. We've always advocated for the drive and the surrounding community and are asking for the city to help us. Please do not make Commercial Drive a traffic corridor during rush hour. We want a safe environment for pedestrians, including seniors like my mother, families, young people, and children. I believe that Commercial Drive has always been underrated, a hidden gem of a street within the beautiful city of Vancouver with a spectacular view of Grouse Mountain on a clear day. It is one of only 3 to 4 walking streets in the city and should be recognized as a pedestrian-focused high street. Our community is very inclusive, welcoming, diverse, pet-friendly, and has a very special energy. Vancouverites, as well as tourists, are coming to appreciate Commercial Drive's originality and personality. The drive has much to offer in the way of good food, fine wine, strong coffee, art, culture, sports, fashion, family, and friends. All the things that the Italian community holds dear, and all the things that my father, who passed away several years ago, would be proud to see continue. I believe that it is time to understand and recognize Commercial Drive's history, as well as to ensure its long-term viability and future potential. The city has a real opportunity to affect positive change with this motion. I strongly support this motion and truly hope that Council will too. Thank you for your time and your consideration today.
And thank you for your time in speaking to Council. If you want to stay on the line, you have questions. Councillor Fry, go ahead.
Yeah, Thanks for speaking, and thanks for acknowledging the pet-friendly aspect. That's something that we hadn't really contemplated, but I really appreciate that you highlighted that. And I'm curious what you think might make the drive more dog-friendly, because I'm assuming you're talking about dogs, not cats on leashes, although that is a thing now, so let's just say more pet-friendly. But also, I'm curious, given the context of COVID and opportunities that businesses are exploring to vend outdoors and to have more sort of remote pickup, not coming into the store as much, those kind of things. Have you explored any of those kind of options in your business and service delivery? Are there opportunities there? Are there challenges to doing that right now?
Okay, in regards to pets, more and more of our customers do have pets nowadays, so a lot of dogs. I haven't seen any cats on leashes, but maybe that's something I'll look for in the future. So, you know, if there were maybe if we were to widen sidewalks and maybe there might be some patio areas, I'm not really sure what the master plan is for this type of pedestrian high street, but there might be some watering stations for pets. A lot of people get out on Commercial Drive and walk their pets. Commercial Drive has always been walked. I've been there for many years. There's always foot traffic on Commercial Drive. Neighbors meeting one another for a coffee, grocery shopping, customers, people coming from other areas of the city. We sell shoes. Shoes are tough to sell online. So a lot of people still do come in the store for fittings. And our customers come from all over the Lower Mainland. We get a lot of tourists as well. And we do get a lot of customers from the community, especially during COVID. They've been super supportive, and we're grateful for them.
Great, thank you.
Great, that's good for you, Councillor Fry. That is it for your questions. Thank you so much, Verolina, for your coming to speak to Council. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And we are moving to speaker 10, Frank Valente.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Up to Council for, up to 5 minutes to speak to Council.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor Stewart. Those were two excellent speakers before me who I can identify with, and if there's anyone that we should be listening to, it should be that family who are pioneers of the drive. Really been prominent figures of Commercial Drive, and they continue to be strong advocates and champions of that street, which is an institution, a landmark in Vancouver. My name is Frank Valente. I'm a resident of Port Moody, but a longtime resident of East Vancouver, where my 85-year-old mother still resides, just several blocks away from Commercial Drive. I'm also the vice president of the Italian-Canadian Sports Federation, which is another institution in the northeast corner of our beautiful city. Many of the kids that play at our club are kids that reside in the Granby Woodlands area or the Commercial Drive area. So a lot of the kids that play at our club and socialize at our club are residents, and their families are residents of Commercial Drive or the Granby Woodlands area. The Commercial Drive Business Society and many of the businesses that encompass Commercial Drive have been vital supporters and partners of our great club. We at the ICSF, the Italian Canadian Sports Federation, do not want to see businesses who have supported us to be affected negatively and have the viability jeopardized, because their viability will, in essence, jeopardize the viability of our organization. I hope that Council can make a good decision. I strongly support the motion that's on the table. I hope that the businesses of Commercial Drive are not impacted negatively. We need these businesses to thrive. A wrong decision can not only impact the businesses, but could impact the surrounding community at large. So I hope that the Council can make the right decision. I am a strong supporter of the motion, and I do not want to see any of the businesses affected in a negative way, because those businesses, many of those businesses, have been strong supporters of our club. And I know that if those businesses are not thriving and they're not doing well, it's hard for a business that's not doing well to support local sports organizations within our community. I thank you for your time, and if there's any questions, that'd be great. Thank you.
Great, and thank you very much for presenting. There aren't any questions, but again, very much appreciate all the time you've taken and your role within community. Thank you. Speaker 11, Andy Agnesini.
One for me in support of this hasn't already said. It's been incredible to listen to everybody in favor of something that I believe will also benefit the area. My name is Andy. I'm an owner of a East Van Brewing Company. I'm a landed immigrant myself. I was born in Italy. A lot of what this is about is trying to create a community, and I can tell you by going back home every year. And I call it home because that's where I was born. That's where my heart is. But I love living here, and this is my second home. A lot of what I love about this area is how it reminds me of wandering around in piazzas and corsos in Italy. There are no cars. People park on the outskirts, and they walk through those areas, saying hi, meeting their friends, sitting in cafes, out on the sidewalks, viewing art, people out there actually painting on the sidewalks. It creates such a community feel, and through that sense of ownership that people take within that community. And I think that's what the drive is slowly starting to become. I spent a lot of time on Commercial Drive as a kid. Most of my family that didn't immigrate here grew up in East Vancouver, and I spent so much time down here as a kid, and just Little Italy couldn't define it better. And to me, it kind of lost its way for a long time. And over the last, I've been back on the drive with the brewery about 4 years now. I can see it just coming back to life, and I do believe creating that sense of community, that this proposal will help that along. So I'm, I had so much more to say, but everyone said it. So I'm just going to echo all those in support and say thank you for your time. And I do believe that this is the right thing to do, and it will create. I think it was Carmen that said that we are recognized as one of the most interesting places in the world. And this will just solidify that. That's all I'm going to say, because there's really nothing else I can add that everyone else that hasn't already said. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do hope, though, that you will stay on the line to answer questions, because there are some from councillors for you.
Sure.
Councillor Kirby Young, you are first. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Andy. And thanks for being here to speak. If I am correct, you've got a pretty great temporary patio set up outside your place. Is that right?
I do, yeah.
And I'm curious to sort of hear your feedback around, as it relates to this motion, sort of that greater use of focus on people in our public space. And if you think that, given the COVID experience and sort of the mushrooming of those patios across the city, this is a real opportunity to kind of take that moment in time and build on the legacy and the use of public space that we just didn't do that as a city, and now we have. And I kind of see that as the silver lining of the COVID cloud. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree with you more. The relaxation of the rules around us being able to get patios and hopefully keep them long term, to me, it absolutely was the make or break the difference between us surviving and not. But through that also, it's created a real sense of, like, at first there's a lot of the neighboring retail shops thought, well, the parking, and then our business is going to suffer because of it. And I would beg to differ. I think now through going through it, because of this pandemic, it's shown that it actually brings more people to that area, and in result, the surrounding retail shops have benefited from that regardless of the parking. Yeah, absolutely. People, if you give them a choice to park right in front of a store, they'll take it. Give them the choice to park somewhere outside and then walk the area and maybe see 2 or 3 other shops or cafes that they wouldn't have known even existed. That to me is a massive win for everyone.
Okay, so you're saying that putting the focus on people in the public space sort of lifts everybody up, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Kirby Young. And Councillor DeGenova, you are next. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. I'm going to ask you a question that's a little bit different in a different direction. You were talking about the importance of Little Italy and sort of the heritage and your experiences on the drive. Do you think that as we move forward with this, and very excited to see this vision coming forward, supported by the BIA, of having this pedestrian first idea, street, hopefully a model for others. Do you think that it's important to do that while preserving the heritage and history of Little Italy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think every great city has their community, their pockets of historical significance. The Chinatowns, the Little Italies. I mean, you can travel to New York and any city, a major city, and see that. And it's really cool to be able to walk into an area and just get completely immersed in that culture of wherever you want to visit. I don't know that there isn't anything more important from a tourism perspective, but from a community perspective as well.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate your comments and your presentation to council.
Yeah, no problem.
That's great. Great. Thanks, Councillor DeGenova. And thank you very much, Andy, for your presentation to council and answering those questions.
It's my pleasure. Have a good afternoon.
Great. Good. Thank you. So we are now, council, on to speaker 12, Ruben Major.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. You have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Excellent. Thanks for the opportunity to speak, council. My name is Ruben Major. I'm the operating partner of Havana Restaurant at 1212 Commercial Drive. Here to speak in support of this motion before. Enhancing pedestrian, bike, and now with improved technology, I would say personal electric vehicle, being scooter, skateboard, wheelchair, etc. Pathways will lead to an even more vibrant commercial drive. As the cultural vein of the city, I can only see this improving over time. Meanwhile, people from further parts of the Lower Mainland may still come by car, and I think that removing the daily parking restrictions will allow people to come and park at any time of the day and not have to move and or be towed during restricted times. From recent experience, having the ability to expand our patio street side has been an amazing addition to our business, and also to the look and feel of the corridor as other restaurants and cafes have done the same. The feeling of the patio flanking both sides of the sidewalk as people wander the streets feels very European. It livens the street and adds a warm, welcoming energy. As we become more able to gather and socialize, I believe Commercial Drive can become an example for other neighborhoods in the city. Not only this, and as we're able to welcome folks back to Havana Theater and get back to the arts, if there was more space on the street for people to gather before and after shows, it would also add to the community feel of our theater, and I can only assume for the York as well. Given the challenges we've all faced over the past year and a half, boosting our ability to recover by catalyzing businesses in the area would be a huge step in the right direction. Commercial Drive is built on community and small business, and creating a pedestrian-first focus for the area can only add and help. Commercial Drive doesn't need to be a vehicle commuter vein. And to add to an earlier speaker, given the surge in the delivery of all kinds, I agree with the importance of improving the safety of delivery bikers and riders. I love the idea of slowing Commercial Drive down and and enhancing the stop and shop model. Aside from that, similar to Andy, I think everything else has been said, and so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Great, thank you. There are no questions for you, but very much appreciate you taking the time to come and address council. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Speaker 13, Ignacio Arrieta.
Hi.
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead. Up to 5 minutes to address council.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak about this proposal. My name is Ignacio Arrieta. I'm the owner and operator of La Mezcaleria at 1622 Commercial Drive. I have been in business for 8 years on Commercial Drive, living with my family for 10 years. I'm a landed immigrant from Mexico, and I run a Mexican restaurant on Commercial Drive. I'm here to speak in support of motion B4, prioritizing Commercial Drive as a pedestrian-first high street. I'm very happy and excited for this motion. Whatever project we will be going to be part of, improvements and changes on Commercial Drive are yelling for it. A pedestrian-friendly street will ensure that Commercial Drive remains vibrant, accessible, and first and foremost walkable, while at the same time supporting business viability so that it remains a highly desirable local and regional commercial destination. Widening sidewalks and enhancing crosswalks benefit pedestrians, including seniors and the mobility challenge, all of whom are our customers. Public art will enhance the area and make it more welcoming for everyone. Public art installations can be used to celebrate our diverse and vibrant cultures and peoples who make up the area. Enhancing the public realm and streetscape with seating, landscaping, pedestrian lighting, street furniture, plazas, and bike racks, decorative crosswalks, public art will be amazing. We need to maintain and improve on the street parking, which is vital for businesses. Many of our customers come by car from other areas of the Lower Mainland and need access to parking, as well as employees that work in the area. I would like to see Commercial Drive with a slow street shared by all users that support a stop and shop model instead of Commercial Drive playing a connector role. We need more patios. You see the example right now with all the patios that happened during COVID. Enhanced bike locking infrastructure, maintaining and improving street parking to support local businesses. Okay, I have here my key points. Well, I just want to end up with saying that I think it's I have been in Canada for 15 years, and I have been all my new life in Canada in Vancouver. I have been part of 2 neighborhoods, and I have seen all the improvements that have been happening in the city during all these years, and I feel like right now is the time for Commercial Drive. Commercial Drive is yelling for it, and I think we have a great opportunity here for developing a great project to be part, and I'm so excited to be part of it and to see the changes, for creating something that will be remembered for generations for the good of our community. And that's all I have to say.
That's great. You don't have any questions from councillors, but thank you so much for taking the time to address council.
You're welcome.
Great. Council, we're moving on to Speaker 14, Selena Morrison.
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Hi.
Go ahead.
My name is Selena Morrison. I live in North Burnaby, and I actually grew up in North Burnaby. I am a wife and a mother of 3 young kids and a working mom. So I come to the drive. I grew up being brought to the drive. My father is a first-generation immigrant, or a landed immigrant. I'm first-generation, and he used to pile us in the car, and we used to come down to the drive on Saturdays to either have a coffee, to watch the games. It was just part of our culture to come there to get the groceries and the deli that we needed. So now that I'm an adult and I have my own family, I've continued that tradition. So being in North Burnaby, we have Hastings here that has a lot of the shops and the the stores I need to go to, but it's not a street I bring my kids in to walk around and to experience the culture or to see the diversity. It's a thoroughfare. It's quite noisy and it's quite loud, and my kids aren't comfortable walking on the street. So when we go to commercial, we park, and it's like an outing for the day. We park the car, and I have kids in car seats, so I do need to drive. Transit's not an option. And we go for ice cream. I go shopping at Santa Barbara, La Grotto. I've even gone to Calena's. We go for lunch for pizza, for Mexican. It's sort of an outing. It's something that they love to do. It's different. There's a different vibe that they see there. And for them, it feels like they're sort of going on a little trip, something special. I did mention that I need to access it with the kids, with parking, so that's important, and like being able to stop and walk. We've come down there for the festivals. We've come down there at Christmas time to enjoy the park when they had Santa Claus and to see the lights. So it is sort of our family tradition. And the idea of making it a pedestrian-first street, I'm very much supportive of this motion. I think it's great for the city. I think it's wonderful for me to continue the tradition for my kids, that they get to experience the diversity in the city, how many cultures come together, how different people come together, and how it all has a meeting place for food, for shopping, for activities. We go for ice cream. We sit on the corner and we sort of watch people go by, and traffic's not going through. There's lots of space. So if we had more room that we could sit there, that we could stay, where we could eat more, that would just be wonderful. And it would be something that they would love, and I would hope that they would pass it on to their generation of kids. So that's how I support this motion, how I think it would be beneficial to the city. And as a growing family, wanting to keep her family in Vancouver, I grew up here. I want my kids to grow up here, and I would hope my grandkids would grow up here. And that would be a place that they get to come with their family. So that's my support for this motion.
Great. Thank you so much. There aren't any questions for you, but again, very much appreciate you coming to speak to council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're on to speaker 15, Ari Demostin.
Speaker number 15 is not on the line, Chair Carr.
Okay. Then to speaker 16, Nico Karyasotis.
And I'm just checking as well, not on the line.
Okay. Moving to speaker 17, Michelle Canis.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead to speak to council.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Michelle Canis, and I'm the operating partner at Bar Corso on Commercial Drive in the heart of Little Italy. I am for motion 4B, making Commercial Drive a pedestrian first high street. Just like everyone has said before, a lot of people have kind of said the same things that I believe in. Making the people come first, and, creating a community that is safe and with no traffic whipping, past people with patios or people shopping in general. So with that being said, I don't have much more to add on, unfortunately. We do respect all the parking that we have, and, having the restrictions lifted of the no parking zones between 3 and 6 for rush hour would be appreciated. That would help us a lot with our customers. That's kind of like the prime time that restaurants even need people to come in as well. Of course, 7 p.m. dinner time, that makes sense, but restaurants in particular, and probably other shops too, those are times that we would like to see more people park and shop around the streets. Sorry, I'm just going off of my notes here. Widening the sidewalks, making the sidewalks actually bigger and larger would be a huge improvement as well. A lot of, the residents of the neighborhood are of all ages and mobility. So, a lot of times we have to ask people to move to have people with wheelchairs or older people to walk by or people walking with their bikes. So that is definitely an issue on Commercial Drive as well. So, again, I'll just wrap it up. I'm for motion 4B, and I also want to emphasize that I agree with what has been said already.
Great. Thank you. And you have no questions, but very much appreciate you taking the time to speak to us.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Speaker 18, Devin McClellan.
Yes, hello.
Hi, we can hear you. Go ahead, up to 5 minutes to speak to council.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for hearing me. This is like my first time speaking at a council meeting, so it's exciting. I am a bicycle delivery worker in Vancouver. I actually at Shift Delivery Co-op, which also means that I'm a business owner. We are a worker-owned co-op in the city, and we service a number of businesses and shops with cargo bikes, electric cargo bikes. And so I just wanted to call in and say that I'm in support of this motion, but with some key amendments. I really don't think it goes far enough and doesn't clearly include anything around AAA bike networks. So that's like all ages and abilities cycle infrastructure on the high street. And having this cycle infrastructure on the high street is actually the most important place to have it. And why is that? Well, bicycle workers and people that are shopping absolutely have to access the high street on their bikes in a safe way. And it's not appropriate to give them these alternate off-street routes when we need to go to the restaurant or to the mail office or to the shop to pick up the goods. And the second thing is that having these separated infrastructure makes it safer for delivery workers that are using e-bikes and cargo bikes, and also just other folks that are shopping or going with their family. The drive is scary. You are cycling in a car door lane, and that car door can be opened at any time, which could cause you injury or death. And usually next to you or behind you is a very large truck that doesn't have good sight lines or visibility. So as a bicycle delivery worker, the existing street design and the motion, they don't give me the confidence that this is going to become a street that people are going to love and feel safe working on as a bike worker or cycling on as a patron. And I guess overall, a pedestrian first commercial drive in my eyes is it's also a bicycle first commercial drive. I'm really excited by the intent of this motion, by the work of Fry and De Genova, but I feel like council can do more to create a more vibrant, safe commercial drive for the future. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you're wondering what it's like to be a bike delivery worker in the city. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And you do have questions. So Councillor Boyle, go ahead.
I am wondering what it's like to be a bike delivery person, but I'm going to be more specific on my questions. I have two, and the first is I've heard some discussion about a bike lane on Victoria Drive, and I live 2 blocks from Victoria Drive, and I'm trying to picture that because it already feels cramped. Can you help me better understand what that would look like?
Well, I mean, if I'm if I'll put my hat on as if I'm a bike delivery worker, and so if I need to go to like a restaurant to pick up an order and deliver it to someone's house, or go to a business and bring packages to the Mail Plus, which is on the drive, or pick up from a grocery store, the East End Food Co-op. That bike lane on Victoria Drive doesn't serve me. It doesn't help in any way, unless I am then using Victoria Drive to get to the end customer. So it'd be great to have a Victoria Drive that feels safe. But most of the action, the movement of goods, is happening on that high street. And that's why it's really important that we have infrastructure there and we have really good wayfinding for folks that are, and wider sidewalks for folks that are walking and biking, driving, whatever it is. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and it's related to my other question, which is I've also heard discussion that if we slow the traffic on the drive, which sounds great to me, that the travel routes could be shared lanes between bikes and cars and buses. And I'm wondering, you're in presumably a bigger bike than most people, but how does that land for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, Pete asked it earlier. Just for some context, I do ride sometimes a tricycle, which is 3 wheels, which is also considered an e-bike in BC. But sometimes we do also ride e-bikes. So the same e-bike that anybody else might have, and we use those e-bikes for moving smaller orders that could be, smaller parcels or meals. To answer your question, that is slowing down, putting signs to tell people to drive slower, doesn't change the fact that I'm sharing the street and cycling in a car door area where someone might open their door and I will hit it at 15, 20, or 25 kilometers an hour. It doesn't change the fact that there's still going to be large service vehicles, delivery trucks, sharing that same space. And it also does...
Sorry, I'm out of time. I just noticed that too. Thanks, Chair Carr. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. But you do have other questions, so if you could stay on the line. Thanks, Councillor Boyle. Councillor Fry, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. So reflecting on the thanks, Speaker, and reflecting on the experience with the riding as a shift delivery courier. Obviously, you have to ride on all sorts of streets, and they aren't all separated bike lanes. I'm assuming. I'm thinking about my own kind of bike route on Adnac there, and it's only a small portion is actually separated. It's mostly shared with car doors opening and shared road and slow speeds at 30K. How do you manage in those contexts without a separated bike lane?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I was on that route today, going to downtown to do grocery deliveries. So on that street very specifically, and I would be careful.
Just in general. Let's just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean on that street though, I am usually trying to stay like a meter or like a distance away from the parked cars, because if someone were to open their car door, then I don't get hit. And there's also lots of passing of other cyclists that happens on that street because it's quite busy. I feel safe in the middle of that street because I don't have buses, I don't have trucks breathing down my neck that are behind me that make me feel pressured like I have to move over. And that's a big difference with that street. So if that's if you had sections of Commercial Drive that were closed off and there was a big promenade at First and Commercial and it wasn't a throughway, maybe we could have a different conversation, but I'm not sure that that's
that's certainly the intent of the BIA in the motion, is that it's not a throughway, but it's a stop and shop kind of destination, and it really is a slow street for enjoyment, not for commuting. And I think that's sort of one of the issues with the idea of a separated bike lane. So in your imagination then, on a separated bike lane, what gives? Obviously we can't have a separated bike lane, patio, parking space, buses, cars, widened sidewalks. It's just simply there's not enough space, especially when we're looking north of First. What should give?
Oh, and What gives? I'm sorry. I'm.
Well, so we can't have it. We can't have it all. And I think that the objective here is to have a shared experience so that we can try and have it all. But if we were to have a separated bike lane, it would take out presumably the parking parklets and patios, I guess is.
And there's
Well,
5 seconds to answer.
Yeah, I feel like we're talking about technical street design here, and that's not really what I want to talk about. I want to just ask council to think about delivery worker safety, people that are riding bikes, and that it can be improved, and that please try to incorporate separated cycle lane. If things have to give, then consider that.
Okay, thank you. And that is it for your time, Councillor Fry. And thank you very much for staying to answer questions and for your presentation to council. Great.
Thank you.
We're on to, thank you. Speaker 19, Elizabeth Dwyer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. You can speak to council up to 5 minutes.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Dwyer. I'm the Director of Operations at Jam Jar Canteen. I'm here to speak in support of Motion B4, prioritizing Commercial Drive as a pedestrian-first high street. We've been in business on the drive since 2014 and are currently located near the Commercial Broadway SkyTrain station, what would be considered the south side of Commercial Drive. We've seen several of our neighbors and ourselves struggle during these times as we've had to rely on serving tables in high traffic outdoor spaces, and whether or not our community feels comfortable enough dining in those spaces in order to stay afloat during this pandemic. This has shined a light directly on the fact that people are reluctant to currently spend time in this area, specifically street side. We've experienced firsthand an uptick over the last couple of years in homelessness and public drug use. Recently, we've been dealing with this every day, attempted break-ins that have resulted in thousands of dollars worth of damage, people stealing our planters, and most upsettingly, having to clean up needles and drug paraphernalia left over from people sleeping on our patio overnight, all of which is currently being handled by frontline workers at a time when hygiene and sanitation are of the utmost importance to the only space in which we are allowed to serve guests. I wholeheartedly believe that wider sidewalks would promote and encourage a stop-and-shop model that would revitalize this area, ensuring the drive remains vibrant, accessible, walkable, and most importantly, a safe space for our community to want to be in. The widening of the sidewalks would have the most benefit for the south side of Commercial Drive, which is currently considered more of a transit corridor, obviously due to its proximity to the Commercial Broadway SkyTrain station, the 99 bus route, and then access to First Avenue and the Trans-Canada Highway. The benefits of this area not being considered a transit corridor can already be seen on the north side of Commercial Drive, where it's clear to see that past First Avenue, the decrease in the amount of traffic in this area has enabled specifically restaurants to have more freedom in erecting outdoor dining structures. This has led to a greater financial viability for businesses in that area, as well as having a beautifying effect on the street. What I hope to see from Motion B4 passing is that the south side of Commercial Drive becomes an area that people want to go to, an area that is accessible to seniors, bikers, children, and all members of the community, a place where businesses can flourish and that the community is proud of. Thank you for your time and consideration and for listening to me speak.
And thank you for coming to speak to us. There are no questions for you, but again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're on to council, on to speaker 20, James.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, up to
Awesome.
5 minutes
That's
to
great.
address council.
Thank you so much for your time. I will be brief as you guys have had lots of speakers on this topic. My name is James Young. Well, I live in North Vancouver. My office is on Commercial Drive, and I am up and down the drive almost every day. I had a couple of different people mention this motion to me, and after looking over it, I wanted to take the time to speak in favor of it. At the age of 28, I am a millennial. I've walked to work, I've biked to work, I've taken transit to work, and I have driven to work. And with that experience, I look at this motion as a huge positive for this community and the businesses that operate in it. Commercial Drive is the perfect street for a pedestrian focus. From my current experience, I commute to the street. I park and then I walk up and down from there. The sidewalks are packed, and that's because my experience is common. Making commercial a pedestrian-focused street would be playing directly to its best elements. It's a win for citizens in the local community. It's a win for small business operating on the drive, as well as a win for those commuting from long distances away. And I'll give the example of my partner. Her family lives up in Squamish. They're of Italian heritage, and they commute that's 75 kilometers to the drive to spend their money at small businesses on the drive that offer services that are really only available there. Over the last 15 months with our COVID experience, various levels of government have passed legislation that have offered funds and favorable policy changes for a variety of businesses. Now, while most of those have favored small and big business, this is a motion that I believe offers exclusively benefits to small businesses, and I strongly urge you guys to vote in favor. Multimodal transportation is a complex debate, and it never really leaves everyone happy because everybody is forced to compromise. But I think that this motion benefits a majority of the commercial drive patrons, businesses, our local community, cyclists, everybody. So thank you guys very much for your time. Stay healthy, be well. If there's any questions, please feel free. If not, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. And there are questions for you. Councillor DiGenova, go ahead, up to 3 minutes.
Thanks very much. You were very concise, and my question for you is specific to what you talked about when you were saying that there's these businesses that offer services and a feeling that you wouldn't get in Squamish. So
Absolutely.
my understanding is, can you tell me a little more about that? And if we're hearing from these businesses that there's certain things that they need to be able to survive, and we've heard from some of them that have been there 50 plus years, over several generations of family-owned business, do you think that it's critical, important we listen to them? Or that, I've heard on the other side, lease sign goes up, somebody else will lease it. Do you feel the drive will have the same feel if we don't listen to this tight-knit community and group of businesses?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, if we were to abandon the small businesses on the drive, that the drive would really lose its cultural heritage and feel. And I think that's something that makes the drive unique. To specifically speak to my example, my partner, we live together in North Vancouver. Her family is culturally Italian. Her grandparents immigrated to Vancouver and then moved to Squamish. And her mother and most of her family, her mother and her grandparents still live up in Squamish. However, there are certain things that they purchase, including, it was her birthday on the 20th of May, and we purchased a cake from Fratelli's on the drive, and that they choose to support that business because it's a business that they've supported for years and years and years, and they come to that just for that, and they will commute all the way from Squamish to the drive, and they will drive all the way down into the city to support that local business. And so that's just the example that I chose to give.
Thanks so much. And just, I have 1 minute left, but because you had mentioned, the importance of the cultural heritage and richness, do you feel that when we look at Vancouver as a whole, Little Italy is a part of that, but it, just as we support Chinatown, the Punjabi market, Little Saigon, and other pockets of Vancouver and other culture, that Little Italy is a part of that you'd like to see, preserved?
Well, absolutely. I grew up in Vancouver. I'm born and raised here, and I look at Canada and specifically Vancouver as a cultural mosaic. And so I look at it as that every single element of our city, whether that's a small community or a different street, has its own flavor and something to be proud of being Italian Canadian or Indo-Canadian, or you name it. And so I think I look at the commercial drive as, proudly Italian Canadian, and I think that it would be an absolute shame should we lose that flavor of the city, because in the end, it's a sum of all its parts.
Great, and that's it for your time. Thank you so much, Councillor DiGenova, and thank you so much, James Young.
Absolutely. Everybody be well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. Speaker 21, Alex Martiniak.
Speaker 21 is not on the line.
Okay. Speaker 22, Nick Pogor. Is Nick Pogor on the line?
Yes, Speaker 22 is on the line.
Nick Pogor, if you are on the line, Council, it's your turn to speak to Council. Speaker 22, Nick Pogor.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Go ahead, up to 5 minutes to speak to Council.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Nick Pogor, and I am the Executive Director at the Commercial Drive Business Society. Many before me today have already spoken about the importance of this motion and how making the drive more inclusive for all, focusing on a pedestrian-first mandate is incredibly important to the businesses on the drive. So I'll try to be brief. But I would like Council to know that in talking to the businesses all along the drive, I can tell you that there is definitely strong support for this motion as businesses see it as a lifeline as they struggle to survive during the pandemic and look to brighter days ahead. Bringing more people to the drive, regardless of the mode of transportation, is incredibly exciting. And the Commercial Drive Business Society is ready to work with staff to identify where we might be able to assist in projects which achieve key aspects of this motion to beautify and slow the street. We appreciate the motion recognizes that there is flexibility in the parking spots for community uses during things like Italian days, car-free days, and for creative uses such as patios, pedestrian placemaking, and opportunities to stop and shop. Other items of note include our desire to improve access and safety for seniors and persons with disabilities on the drive, and I believe this motion will do that by creating wider linear spaces. Also, increasing bicycle access to the drive is indeed one of the CDBS's goals. Although we don't believe the drive should be a commuter route, we are definitely looking for ways to improve the neighborhood cycling network, in particular, the east-west connections. Overall, there is wide support for the idea of creating a more robust pedestrian experience while keeping the streets safe and providing easy access to businesses. I hope you will all consider supporting this motion, which will mean so much for the members of our organization. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, and if you don't mind waiting on the line to answer questions, you do have some. Councillor Swanson, go ahead with questions.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming. I'm just wondering if you and the BIA have thought of ways that this improving this street like this for pedestrians could also welcome lower income people who can't afford to eat in restaurants, people who are homeless, people who are selling their stuff on the street. Have you thought about ways to include them in the neighborhood too?
I mean, we definitely always strive to be an inclusive neighborhood. We recognize the diversity in people that visit Commercial Drive. I'm not sure that I would be ready to speak to something as complex as what you've mentioned, Councillor Swanson. There are bylaws that reference this type of activity. So, I mean, I'm not the one who writes bylaws. I can't really speak to that.
So, are you saying that making this space welcoming to lower income folks actually isn't a priority?
No, I think the public spaces that we're looking at increasing in the area offer a much more welcoming space for everybody, for people of all economic, all places in the economic realm, as well as people of all diversities. Civic plans. Sorry, go ahead.
So we could have places for people to sit even if they weren't buying anything, for example?
Oh, 100%. We want the area to be more welcoming. We're looking forward to more street furniture that people can use. We want more public art. We want to improve, some of the public spaces, such as the parks in the area. We want to connect the neighborhood and make it inclusive for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you do have more questions. Councillor Weave, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for coming to speak today. Can you talk a little bit more about the BIA's proposal for including bike access? You talked a little bit about the importance of an east-west connection, and then in the motion it talks a little bit more about physical distancing while cycling. So can you talk about the need of being able to attract bicycle shoppers in and out of the area?
Well, I think it's important that we respect all modes of transportation, and our plan definitely serves not only pedestrians first. It serves people who arrive by car. It supports bus transportation, delivery vehicles, and we definitely have thought about cyclists in the greater context of the plan. We look to connect not only the entire neighborhood, but we look to fill the gaps in any of the cycling infrastructure. And where you specifically talk about east-west connectors, there are some great bike routes that are set up in a north-south configuration in the area. And if we can increase the connectivity to Commercial Drive with east-west connections, making for greater, more improved, easier, and more direct access with strategically placed bike parking along Commercial Drive, I think that's a win for the cyclist and a win for everybody.
And then do you have any projects that you've been thinking that you might bring forward that could be kind of quick starts to move some of this work? Has there been projects or little pilots that the BIA has been contemplating or that could really start so that people could really see what this could look like?
We don't have pilots. We have done a lot of outreach over the years that has formed, our ideas and where we are today. But I think that's part of the ongoing design process, that the Commercial Drive Business Society and the rest of the community would be involved in.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming today.
Great.
Thank you, Mike.
That's it for your questions, but thank you very much also for coming and speaking to Council.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Speaker 23, Michael Cuccione.
Yes, I'm online. I thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Michael Cuccione. I represent the Italian Cultural Center, Il Centro. I do support this motion because it speaks about the heritage of the uniqueness that the Commercial Drive has, that European feel, and I'm hoping that this motion will add to that European feel, because it's many generations have built the drive, and the history has grown and grown and grown, and I'm hoping that this motion will allow it to continue from commercial, the drive, having the Italian Day Festival Society, having the Commercial Drive event literally on the drive, and also the Section 8, the 8 blocks that we have of Little Italy. I'm hoping that is maintained and enhanced. And the way I look at this, it should be a European feel, and hopefully that this motion will have a piazza with an inviting archway where everyone can be, for the enjoyment of all. We would like everyone to enjoy Commercial Drive, everyone to enjoy the history that it has in the past. But the true reason that I really want this motion to move forward, and because consultation to me is very, very important. I did speak to Councillor Melissa DeGenova, and she's one of the movers of this motion, and so I asked her and urged her to include consultation with this motion, because to me, consultation with the Italian Cultural Center, Il Centro, and the Italian Day Festival Society to work with staff as things progress. I think a meaningful consultation is important. I'm sorry, I just had a wisdom tooth pulled, and that's why it's very difficult to speak. But anyways, I'm doing it. I was supposed to speak a few days ago, but anyways, we're getting there. The consultation should be meaningful, and so that not a hearsay we're going to have consult. It should be one where input and feedback is seriously looked at, and to demonstrate teamwork, a united society where successes come from being united and not divided. And let's face it, this is for the betterment of all, and I believe this motion will speak to that, to preserve the Italian Day on the Drive that we do annually, and to preserve all the culture so that everyone is invited to come to the drive, and having the wider walkways and slowing the traffic, which will be safer for everyone, is wonderful. But we also need enough space wide enough and large enough to hold large events. I thank you for allowing me to speak. If there's any other questions, but to me, consultation on this is huge with the stakeholders.
Great. Thank you. Actually, you do have some questions. Go ahead, Councillor DiGenova.
Thanks very much, and thanks, Michael, for making the time to speak. I'm sorry to hear about your dental surgery there, so I'll try not to ask you to have to speak too much more. But I heard you loud and clear, and if an amendment were to come forward that would include and be inclusive of work with you, which is what I've submitted, and it's not the appropriate time right now to debate it. That comes during debate and decision. Is that something Il Centro would be supportive of? What I'm looking for is, do you support this proposal, and are you walking literally, sorry, excuse the pun, hand in hand with the BIA and with Commercial Drive and the Italian Day Festival Society, but you want to make sure that the heritage and the history is preserved, and that Il Centro is there to also work with the city?
100%, and just
on that. Okay.
100%, and I just want to stress also that the Italian Cultural Center has our mission statement is to share the Italian cultural values and heritage with all communities, and this would speak to it. And collaborating with all stakeholders is vital. As how do we move forward, and to make sure that consultation, again, not in a hearsay, in a meaningful way, is critical for the benefit of all. And I would definitely support if you can add that stressing on that consultation, support that 100%.
Well, I will try, but that's up to council. One more question is, you're not asking for any special treatment here. That's what I'm hearing, that this would be the same as you would hope would happen in working with, and I guess that's what it's about. It's working with, not just asking or informing. And I hear what you're saying. But in the Punjabi market, Chinatown, Little Saigon, all throughout our city, in the way that we consult in other culturally diverse and significant neighborhoods and areas, along with the fact that we're a city of reconciliation, everything we do involves our First Nations.
Multicultural society.
Any special treatment?
No. This multicultural society, it's inviting all and persevering to share our cultures and traditions. That's what it's all about. We have to share with our neighbors, and so that they learn about us and we learn about them. So that's critical.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor DiGenova, and thank you so much, Michael Caucini. Very much appreciate, despite your dental surgery, that you took the time to speak to council. It's very important.
Thank you, and have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Councillor, on to Speaker 24, Jonathan Williams.
Hi. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we hear you clearly. Up to 5 minutes to speak to council.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak, Chair Carr and council members and mayor. I'm Jonathan Williams. I am involved in the BIA for Commercial Drive. I have been a resident of Vancouver for over 30 years. My home I just sold was on 5th and Campbell. I still live in Vancouver, but I'm now on the west side. I am 100% in support of B4, prioritizing Commercial Drive as a pedestrian first high street. I heard other speakers say things such as, in particular, one stuck with me was Selena Morrison when she spoke of bringing her children down to the drive. It's a very difficult thing to do that on a SkyTrain. It's a very difficult thing to do that on a bicycle. But I was very impressed that she brought that up because that's one of the things, the area where I would like to speak. Visitors who travel by vehicle to Commercial Drive find parking relatively available and affordable at present. When I became a board member of Commercial Drive BIA, I asked many business owners in our membership what would be the top of their wish list for the future of this area. I received primarily two answers. First of all, more parking for visitors, and secondly, the feeling of safety. When I heard what Selena Morrison said, at present, we're somewhat meeting that goal, and maintaining and improving on that street parking would also allow for the flexibility to accommodate the needs of our community. A good example of this is how we were able to support the many restaurants which are struggling to stay viable even presently with COVID. I believe when people find coming to Commercial Drive a pleasurable experience, bus ride, train ride, bike ride, car ride, it directly translates into the vision Council has for Vancouver neighborhoods. We know there are many people who visit Commercial Drive that come from all areas of the Lower Mainland to enjoy the culture and culinary delights offered. Our community wants and needs these visitors to continue to feel welcome and appreciated. I firmly believe that this motion addresses the needs of our community and the many visitors who love spending time on the drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. That's all I have.
That's great. Thank you very much. And there are no questions for you, but very much appreciate you taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you.
Great. We are on to speaker 25, Mario Michele.
Hello?
Yes, hello. We can hear you. Go ahead, up to 5
Thank
minutes
you.
to speak to Council.
Thank you very much, Council and Mayor. My name is Mario Michele, and I'm the Executive Director here at the Italian Cultural Center on 12th and Slocan, not too far from Commercial Drive. I think you heard Mike Cuccioni, our president, speak to the fact that our mandate or our mission statement is to promote and share Italian culture, heritage, and values with all communities. Now, Commercial Drive has a very special spot in every Italian's heart because as a child, growing up in South Vancouver, born and raised in South Vancouver, I did the Saturday treks to Commercial Drive where we enjoyed the day as many people are doing today. Shopping, it's where our parents got the goods that reminded them of home, but also got the services that were required for them to adapt into a new country. The one thing I love about Commercial Drive is that it is an inviting environment for everyone. And despite the fact that we have this beautiful little corner called Little Italy that really reflects our culture and values, I support this motion because it's going to continually improve on Commercial Drive and it will draw people to Commercial Drive. The idea behind Commercial Drive was to walk it, enjoy the restaurants, both Italian and of every other nation on the world, in one small area of the community. It's important that we maintain our Italian heritage with Little Italy and continue to improve upon it. And I'm thrilled that we are invited to work collaboratively with the Commercial Drive Business Association, Italian Day on the Drive, the Festival Society, all of these groups that continue to make Commercial Drive a special part of the Vancouver community. So I'm in full support, and I really appreciate the collaboration that we'll be doing in moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Great, and thank you. And please, if you could stay on the line, you have some questions from Councillor DiGenova. Councillor DiGenova, Go ahead.
Thanks very much. Thanks for staying over several days to speak to council. Also, as executive director of Il Centro, but also understanding Il Centro is not right on the drive. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of the authenticity of the area and respecting what these businesses want and need, considering the atmosphere that they've created on the drive that supported Little Italy, be it whether or not they're Italian businesses?
Well, I salute the business, the Business Improvement Group and Commercial Drive Business Society. I think what's important is I think other people have already spoken to this, the fact that they've done an exceptional job in resurrecting a street, a community. And I think the important component is that it is a community. And I think maintaining the authenticity to the original roots speaks to the heritage of Italians who made that area home. We have the designation of Little Italy, which is incredibly important to people no matter where they live. I think you've heard from other speakers who will actually commute to come and enjoy Commercial Drive, which is something that we regularly do as a family. I think it's important to move that through the generations, and with the proposed changes with this particular motion, I think it's going to simply improve the opportunities for all the businesses and be as inviting as Italians are within their culture. Our values are to accept and invite everyone, and I think that's what Commercial Drive now represents. Everybody from everywhere has a place they can call their community.
Thanks so much. Just also wondering, I understand the Italian Day Festival Society Italian Day is one of the biggest days. We haven't had it in COVID, although there have been other events to celebrate that day instead, online and all sorts of things. But just with the very little time that I've left, do you think that it's important that we preserve and lift up events like that, and also that we listen to the stewards of the area, which would be the Italian community, but also the small business owners that actually make their livelihood on Commercial Drive?
Absolutely. I think it's imperative that we maintain all of the things that have been going on Commercial Drive. And I see this motion as an enhancement, not an instead of some of the plans that are moving forward with Commercial Drive. And obviously, the festival is incredibly important to our community. It's how we celebrate what we do. It's very similar to what the Indian community does, the South Asian community, the Chinese community. I think that's what makes Vancouver great, is the opportunity for people to come and experience these festivals.
Yes, that is it for Councillor DiGenova's time.
I didn't want to interrupt. Thanks, Chair. And
Yeah.
thank you, Mario.
Yeah, and thank you very much for coming to speak to Council. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, we are on to Speaker 26, Brunella Gaudio.
Chair Carr, I was advised that Speaker number 26 had withdrawn.
Okay. That is and number 27 has withdrawn. So that's the end of our speakers list. So what I'm going to do is, Council, go back over the names of individuals who were on our list but not online when I read their names out as we went through these speakers. Beginning with Speaker 2, Leslie McHale. And Clerk, if you could just advise me if Leslie McHale is on the line.
No.
Okay, number 6, Aaron Mulally.
No.
Speaker 15, Ari Demoston.
No.
Speaker 16, Nico Kariasiotis.
No.
Speaker 21, Alex Martiniak.
No.
And I believe that's it.
Correct.
That is, yeah, that's all that that we have on the list. So we are
Just
at
have
the
a
end.
point of procedure, Chair.
You're on the, yes, we are into debate at this point. Councillor DeGenova, I'm sorry, I see that you are on this list, but I am going to move all of you. So we've got Councillor DeGenova, Swanson, and Boyle in that order on the speaking queue. So it was Councillor, Clerk, would you mind just adding those? Thank you very much. So go ahead, Councillor DeGenova. We are in debate and decision right
Before
now.
you start my time, I do have a point of procedure. The
Sure.
point of procedure is this meeting was scheduled until 6 p.m.
Correct.
So we're 10 minutes away from that. So
We
I
are.
was just hoping that because I understood that there were council members that could not stay past that time, that perhaps we could deal with that now. I'm not sure if the meeting will end otherwise because that's what we scheduled or not, Chair. But I was hoping that maybe looking to you for some guidance on that, if we'd have to extend and didn't want to move anything like that if others had. My understanding that we were meeting until 6 was because others' schedules did not permit meeting longer.
That is correct.
So.
We have a number of people who are not available um, tonight, and if we extend past 6, that you could move a motion to do that, but that would have to be a unanimous vote in order for that to occur.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure. I would want to do that if others had, parenting responsibilities or that. So
Right.
I'm happy to move on, and we just pick up again tomorrow.
Yeah.
At what time is the point of procedure I have? My second.
Right. I've already announced that we are starting at 3 tomorrow, but we are continuing until 10 tomorrow.
I have a point of procedure, Chair.
Yes.
I know you were calling the speakers, but I got a note that one of the speakers, Leslie McHale, is holding or has been holding on the line. So I don't know if there's a technical difficulty.
I did actually just call her name just as I was going through the list. That was one of the names called, and the speaker was not on the line. So
I'm receiving a note. I just wanted to alert you that I was receiving a note that they were.
Clerk, excuse me. I'm dealing with a point of procedure right now, Councillor DeGenova. Clerk, I wonder if you could just check and see if we do have Leslie McHale on the line.
Yes, as a matter of fact, she was not on the line when her name was called, but she has called in, and she is there now if it is council's will.
Right. Normally there is a read through once of that list, but I'm of a notion to just let any speaker who has called in while we're still in this position to speak. So, but if it's council's will, I'm just going to go through a yay and nay on this. Is council willing to hear the remaining speaker on the line?
Yay.
All those in favor say yay.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, Council, we have about 7 minutes left. So, Leslie McHale, if you are hearing me, please announce yourself, and you have 5 minutes to speak to Council. Leslie McHale.
I am told she's on the line.
Hi.
Yes.
I'm here.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, we can hear you. You have up to 5 minutes to address Council. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Leslie McHale, and I'm proud to be speaking today in my role as the president of Commercial Drive Business Society. This is an extremely exciting day for our organization and for me as a small business owner on the drive. I do believe that this motion, which our organization wholeheartedly endorses, represents all of the values that make Commercial Drive such a special place, because at its heart, this motion captures the spirit of ingenuity, resourcefulness, accessibility that folks in our city most associate with the drive. The path to today's motion began over 12 years ago. It was a different group of elected officials around the council table, but the people who built their businesses, raised their families, and come together as a community are largely the same. After years of consultation, a few things became apparent.
One, Commercial Drive is special in its authentic nature, special in its ability to welcome people of all ages, ethnicity, gender orientation, and economic circumstances. Two, the small businesses and restaurants, many of which are family owned, are part of the fabric of the street and absolutely give it a welcoming and friendly feel. Three, it also became really apparent that the things that folks loved about the drive were the things that they didn't want to lose. Things like the ability to walk from their home to their favorite coffee shop, grocer, bakery, clothing store. No matter where they came from to support the drive, they didn't want it to give way to big box stores or chains. And we haven't. I do want to thank Councillor Fry and Councillor DeGenova for bringing forward a thoughtful motion that embraces our community values and forges a path forward in the spirit of our street. Ultimately, we as residents, business owners, and community social service agencies, we want people to travel to the drive in whatever way they choose, by car, transit, bike, wheelchair, scooter, or skateboard. We want them to meander the street and experience the merchants and the restaurants and the people. It is of paramount importance for all of us that love the drive that it continue to be a welcoming space that allows people to mingle and enjoy the neighborhood. Today, as our businesses struggle to survive and we look with anticipation to post-COVID recovery in our city, we know that this motion is a lifeline that our businesses desperately need. As a business society, we support slowing the street, beautifying the street, increasing the linear space, as well as supporting all modes of transportation, which will in turn support our business community. We strongly oppose any attempts to make Commercial Drive a commuter thoroughfare, regardless of mode of travel. We very much implore Council to recognize the flexibility of maintaining existing parking spots. As we've seen and experienced, the use of these parking spots when used as flexible spaces have been instrumental in keeping our restaurants alive. These flexible spaces can be used as community spaces for street festivals, parklets, patios, and other shared spaces. The drive is a destination high street, different from others in our city and special and unique unto itself. We ask each member of Council to consider that when they are asked to vote on the motion, that you respect the thoughtfulness and the construction of the motion and support it as presented. I would also like to respectfully remind Council, if you haven't had the opportunity to review the exhaustive past public consultation, that it does speak to the need for better sidewalks for seniors and the mobility challenged. This motion takes that into account, and for that we are grateful. In conclusion, we are hopeful for unanimous support for this motion as presented. The Business Society is ready and excited to work with the City staff to explore opportunities to begin actioning this vision, one that supports inclusiveness and works to continue to welcome all to the drive. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak today.
Great, and thank you for just getting in there just before this ended. So thank you for that the diligent effort to speak to us. It's very appreciated. Council, we we've only got 2 minutes left before we.
Are we not
Yes.
taking questions for the speaker?
We do not have time for 3 minutes of questioning. I need to deal with the fact that we need a motion to recess this meeting before we hit the deadline of 6 o'clock. I'm sorry, Councillor Kirby Young. Great. Okay. Motion to recess until tomorrow. That's Thursday, May 27th at 3 p.m. And don't forget, Council, we are we have in our schedules to go till 10 p.m. Thank you, Councillor DeGenova, for that movement. All those that moving that, all those in favor say yay.
Yay.
Okay.
And the opposed say nay. That is unanimous. I'm sorry about that, Councillor Kirby Young, but the deadline is very firm on either the meeting ends or we
Just
recess.
a point of procedure, Chair, if I may, in the last moment we have, if Leslie McHale is able to come back, could she answer questions tomorrow?
Clerk, I'm not sure. What is the procedure on that? Either the speaking list is closed. I mean, I did read through it all. It's recognizing, Clerk, I would
Did you want me to jump in, Chair Carr?
Yes, please.
Sorry, the sound is a little faint here.
Sorry.
Yes, if the speaker is able to come back tomorrow, you could continue with asking the speaker questions. We have done that in the past.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Has the speaker left the line? I think probably.
Perhaps the clerk could contact the speaker and let the speaker know if possible. Thank you, Chair.
Is that possible, clerk?
Yes, we can make contact with the speaker.
Great. Thank you. Great. Well, we are recessed, and good suggestion there, Councillor DiGenova. Enjoy your evening, everyone, and we'll see you again at 3. Thanks, staff.